My story begins with me being exhausted, one bleeding Mafia dawn, and one mistake that changes everything for me. I saved his life, and now the savage Don refuses to let me go. This is my story. Let's begin. The first rule of night shift was simple. Never ask why they were bleeding. I had learned that after 3 years at St. Orleans' private emergency clinic, where the wealthy came through the front door with lawyers, and desperate men came through the back with cash, lies, and blood soaking through their coats. It was almost midnight when the storm hit hard enough to rattle the windows. Rain lashed against the glass in silver sheets, turning the parking lot into a dark mirror of broken light. The clinic hummed around me, too bright and too quiet, smelling of antiseptic, latex gloves, stale coffee, and the faint metallic bite that never fully left the floors no matter how many times we cleaned them. I stood alone beneath the fluorescent lights, pressing my thumb into the bridge of my nose, while the printer spat out discharge papers for a man who had sworn his broken hand came from falling downstairs. His knuckles said otherwise. So did the woman who wouldn't meet my eyes when she came to pick him up. But I had patched him, documented what I could, and watched him leave with a warning he pretended not to hear. That was the job. Stop the bleeding. Keep breathing. Do not fall apart until you are home. My phone buzzed on the counter beside a tray of wrapped instruments. Marcus. My younger brother's name flashed across the screen, followed by one missed call, then a message that came through in pieces. Kayla, call me back. Please. I messed up. I closed my eyes. Not tonight. The thought was ugly, tired, human. I loved Marcus. I had raised too much of him after our mother got sick, had signed too many forms, paid too many late fees, answered too many calls that began with, "Don't be mad." But right then, with my feet aching and my head pounding behind my eyes, I did not have one more crisis left in me. I turned the phone face down. "I'll call you in 10 minutes, I whispered to no one. That was the lie nurses told themselves. 10 minutes. One more chart. One more patient. One more life that needed us before our own could matter. I stripped off my gloves and crossed to the supply cabinet, counting what needed restocking before the morning crew arrived. Gauze. Suture kits. Saline. Trauma packs. Thunder cracked so hard the lights flickered. Then the back door slammed open. The sound tore through the clinic like a gunshot. I spun around. 3 men came in from the rain carrying a 4th between them. No, not carrying. Dragging. Water streamed from their black coats onto the tile. One man had a handgun visible beneath his jacket. Another had blood smeared up his sleeve. The third was built like a wall and breathing like he had run miles with death at his back. The man between them was barely upright. His head hung forward. His boots scraped the floor. Blood dripped from his fingers in steady, horrifying taps. Tap, 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 red on white tile. For half a second, my body forgot every hour of training I had ever survived. Then the dying man sagged harder between them, and instinct took over. "Exam table," I snapped. "Now!" The wall of a man looked at me like he was deciding whether I was worth obeying. "Move," I said, sharper, "unless you brought him here to die." That got him moving. They hauled the wounded man to the trauma bay and lifted him onto the table with a wet, heavy thud. The paper sheet beneath him turned red almost immediately. One of the men crowded behind me. "Save him!" I grabbed gloves from the box and snapped them on. "Back up!" "You don't tell us!" "I do if you want him alive." I pointed toward the cabinets without looking at him. "You!" "Trauma pack." "Top shelf." "You!" "Apply pressure here when I tell you." Not before, not after, exactly when I say. And if anyone points a weapon at me in my clinic, I let him bleed while I call whoever scares you more than I do. Silence hit the room. Not peace. Silence. The kind that came before men decided how violent they wanted the night to become. Then the largest one moved to the cabinet. Good. I cut through the wounded man's shirt with trauma shears. Black fabric split open beneath my hands. I saw blood first. Too much of it. Then the body underneath. Broad chest, hard muscle, old scars crossing newer wounds, a bullet wound low on his left side, bleeding heavily but not pumping. A knife wound near his ribs, ugly and deep, like someone had stabbed him after shooting him, just to be certain. This was not a robbery. This was not a street fight. This was an execution that had failed by inches. Pressure. I ordered. The man on my left pressed down. Not there, here. I moved his hand. Hold it firm. If he dies because you panic, that is on you. His jaw flexed, but he obeyed. I checked the patient's pulse. Too fast. Weak. Skin cold under my fingers despite the heat of the blood. Name? I demanded. No one answered. I looked up. All three men had gone still. I need his name. The tallest one's eyes flicked to the man on the table, then away. My stomach tightened. Men lied about names all the time. Gang boys gave nicknames. Rich men gave fake ones. Married men gave initials and hoped I wouldn't notice the wedding ring in their pocket. But this silence felt different. Heavy. Afraid. The wounded man's fingers twitched against the table. His eyes opened. I had seen men wake from trauma before, confused, wild, begging, swinging, calling for mothers, wives, God, anyone who might still want them alive. This man did none of that. His eyes opened with terrible focus, gray. No, not gray. Smoke over steel. He looked at me like waking half dead in a clinic with his blood on my hands was not the worst thing that had happened to him tonight. His mouth moved. I leaned closer despite myself. What? His voice came out rough as gravel dragged across concrete. Hunter! The man holding pressure muttered something under his breath. A curse. A prayer. Maybe both. Another said, barely audible, Hunter Narvelle. My hand stopped for one dangerous heartbeat. I knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Hunter Narvelle. The Savage Dawn. Not one of the old families with marble mansions, charity galas, and portraits of dead grandfathers watching over blood-soaked inheritances. Hunter Narvelle was something else. Street-born. Self-made. The kind of man whispered about in emergency rooms, police stations, and alleys, where boys learn too young which names not to say out loud. They said he built his empire from broken pavement and unpaid debts. They said old blood mafia men hated him because he had not inherited his throne. He had taken it, and now he was on my table, bleeding through my gloves. Every sensible part of me screamed to step back. Call someone. Call the police. Leave the room. Let someone else's hands be responsible for whether a monster lived or died. But his pulse jumped weakly beneath my fingers. A dying man was still a patient, and I was still the woman standing closest to his blood. Hunter, I said, forcing my voice steady, if you can hear me, stay still. His lashes lowered, then lifted again. Not a nod. Not consent, just awareness. I cleaned around the wound, started an IV, pushed fluids, and reached for the portable ultrasound. My hands moved faster than my fear, gloves slick. Gauze red, metal tray clattering when thunder shook the building again. BP dropping, I said. The man near the monitors stared at me blankly. The blood pressure? I snapped. Read me the numbers. He did. Not good. I set my jaw and worked. The bullet had lodged deep, but not impossibly. Lucky, if luck could be, dragged and bleeding, and surrounded by armed men. The knife wound worried me more. The angle was wrong. Deliberate. Close. Whoever had done this had been near enough to smell his blood. Near enough that Hunter might have known him. I glanced at the men. 2 looked soaked, shaken, streaked with rain and panic. The third stood back near the door. Too clean. His coat was wet at the shoulders, but his hands were steady. No blood under his nails. No frantic shifting. His gaze kept moving, not to Hunter's face, but to the exits. A cold thread slid down my spine. I looked back at my patient. Hunter's eyes were open again. Watching me. Not the men. Me. You need to stop moving, I said, because his hand had shifted toward mine. He caught my wrist, even weak, even bleeding, even half-conscious. His grip turned the air in the room to ice. Every man behind me reacted at once. Weapons shifted. Feet moved. Someone cursed. I froze with my fingers still pressed against the edge of his wound. Hunter's hand was cold, slick with blood, too strong for a dying man. His eyes locked on mine. For one wild second, I understood why powerful men feared him. Not because he was loud, because even dying, he made the room wait. His voice graped out, low and broken. Do not trust them. My pulse kicked hard. His gaze flicked past my shoulder, toward the men who had brought him in. Then his grip tightened just enough to make the warning feel less like delirium and more like a blade pressed quietly against my throat. His warning did not echo. It sank. Quiet. Heavy. Venomous. Do not trust them. For one beat, no one breathed right. The man near the door shifted first. Barely. A scrape of wet shoe against tile. Hunter's eyes cut in that direction. So did mine. And that tiny movement, that single stolen glance, told me the room had changed. I was no longer only trying to keep a dying man alive. I was standing in the middle of something I did not understand, surrounded by armed men who might not all be on the same side. Hunter's grip tightened around my wrist. Pain flickered up my arm. I forced myself not to flinch. If you want me to keep you alive, I said, low enough that only he and maybe the closest man could hear, you need to let go. His stare did not soften. It sharpened. Like he was measuring whether I was brave or stupid. Maybe I was both. Hunter, putting pressure back where the bleeding tried to push through. Let go. His fingers loosened one by one. The moment my wrist was free, I pressed his hand flat to the table and leaned over him with every ounce of authority I had left. Do not move again unless you want me digging this bullet out of your spine instead of your side. Something passed through his eyes. Not humor. Recognition, maybe. Then his lashes dropped, and the hard line of his body slackened beneath my hands. He's out, the largest man said. No, I snapped, checking his pulse again. He's still here. Barely. Keep pressure. The man obeyed faster this time. Good. Fear had finally learned usefulness. I reached for the forceps and angled the light lower. The bullet was not where a random shot should have placed it. The path was too controlled, too close. The tearing around the wound strange enough to make my stomach pull tight. A clean shot would have gone deeper or passed through. This one looked like someone had fired close. Then someone else had decided a bullet was not personal enough. My gaze moved to the knife wound near his ribs. That one had anger in it, not panic, not a sloppy struggle. Intent. Who brought him in first? I asked without looking up. No answer. I lifted my eyes. He did not walk through that door by himself. The big man, holding pressure, said, "We all did." That is not what I asked. The air hardened. The too clean man near the door looked at the others before he looked at me. A mistake. Small, but real. I was behind, he said. His voice was smooth. Too calm for a man standing in a room that smelled like blood and storm water. Behind where? Outside. Doing what? His jaw moved once. The largest man cut in. Watching the lot. I looked back at Hunter before they could see too much on my face. Watching the lot. Maybe true. Maybe rehearsed. I had no proof of anything except blood, a dying pulse, and a warning from a man whose life was slipping beneath my gloves. So I did the only thing I could do. I kept him alive. The bullet came free with a soft metallic click against the tray. No one spoke. I packed the tonspai wound, irrigated what I could, checked for signs of internal bleeding, and moved to the knife wound. My shoulders burned from holding tension. Sweat gathered at the base of my neck despite the cold rain blowing through the hallway from the open back entrance. Door, I barked. One of them turned. Close it, now. This is not a barn. He shut it. The room narrowed around us. Fluorescent light. Monitors. My hands. Hunter Narvelle's blood. Men with guns pretending they were not afraid of the man on the table. His pressure started to climb. Not enough. But enough. I sutured with tight, efficient movements, each pass of the needle pulling torn flesh back into something survivable. When I finished the outer layer, I taped gauze over the wound and pressed my stethoscope to his chest. Still fast. Still rough. Still alive. Only then did I let myself inhale fully. The breath scraped going in. The largest man stared at Hunter like he had been holding up the ceiling and could finally lower his hands. He'll live? He asked. I peeled off one bloody glove and reached for another. For now. For now? I looked at him. He was shot, stabbed, dragged through a storm, and brought to me instead of a hospital. Did you want a parade? His mouth shut. Smart man. I turned to adjust the IV line and almost missed the way the clean man moved closer to the door again. Almost. Where are you going? I asked. He stopped. Every head turned. His expression barely changed, but something flat passed through his eyes. To make a call. No one makes calls in my trauma bay. This is not your business. I laughed once, without humor. Your boss is on my table. His blood is in my shoes. Until he can stand up and threaten me himself, this room is absolutely my business. The big man's gaze flicked to Hunter, then to the clean man. A fracture. There it was again. Not proof. Pressure. The kind that formed before something broke. Hunter moved. Not much. Just a shift of his head, a pull of breath through clenched teeth. The monitor gave a small, uneven beep. I stepped back to his side. Easy. His eyes opened. This time, they did not drift. They locked on me with brutal clarity. It was obscene how present he looked for a man who should have still been lost to pain. His face was pale beneath the bruising, his mouth split, his body torn open and stitched together by my hands. But his stare had weight. Command. The room responded to it before he spoke. Shoulders straightened. Eyes dropped. Even the storm seemed quieter beyond the glass. Hunter looked from my face to my gloved hands, then to the tray where the bullet lay dark and ugly under the surgical light. His mouth tightened. You took it out. His voice was ruined, but the authority in it had survived. Yes. You see it? I followed his gaze to the bullet. Careful, Kayla. I saw enough to know you need a hospital. A faint movement at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. Something colder. I asked what you saw. My skin prickled. Behind me, the clean man had gone very still. I chose each word like I was walking barefoot over glass. I saw a man bleeding badly enough to die. Hunter's eyes stayed on mine. And I saved him. The room held its breath again. Something in his expression shifted. Not trust. I did not think trust lived in men like him, but he heard what I did not say. I was not giving him more. Not in front of them. Not until I understood whether his warning had been delirium or survival. Hunter tried to push himself up. No. I put one hand on his shoulder. Every man in the room looked at my hand. I realized too late what I had done. Touched him like he was any other patient. Not a Don. Not a threat. A man. His gaze dropped to where my palm rested against his bare skin. Then slowly, dangerously, it returned to my face. Take your hand off me, he said. I did, not because he scared me, because my own hand had started shaking. You tear those stitches, I said, and I am not feeling sorry for you. I did not ask for your pity. Good. I am out. That should have been the end of it. It was not. Hunter looked around the room, his attention cutting from man to man with terrifying precision. No one met his eyes for long. Then he looked back at me. The question came softly. That made it worse. Who sent you? For a second, I thought I had misheard him. Then the meaning landed. After all the blood, all the pressure, all the minutes I had spent pulling him away from death with my hands, while armed strangers breathed down my neck, he thought I was part of it. Heat rose through my chest so fast it nearly burned through the fear. No one sent me, I said. Your men kicked in my back door and dropped you on my table. His stare did not move. You are alone. I work nights. At this clinic? Yes. With no doctor on site. The doctor on call is 20 minutes away, and you did not have 20 minutes. You expect me to believe that? I stepped closer before I could think better of it. No, Mr. Narvelle. I expect you to lie still, keep breathing, and not accuse the woman who just had her fingers inside your wound of arranging it. One of the men made a sound under his breath. Hunter did not. He watched me with that awful steady focus, and I hated the small, treacherous part of me that noticed how his attention felt like standing too close to a fire. Dangerous. Unforgiving. Impossible to ignore. Then his gaze slid past me. To the doors, he said. The big man moved immediately. My stomach dropped. What are you doing? Hunter did not look away from his men. Lock them. The clean man hesitated. Only a second. Hunter saw it. So did I. Now, Hunter said. The word cracked through the room. The men moved. Locks turned at the back entrance. Then the side door. Then the front. One by one, every exit sealed. I stood beside the exam table, blood cooling on my gloves, my wrist still aching from his grip, and understood with a sick, precise clarity that saving Hunter Narvelle had not ended the danger. It had invited me inside it. You cannot keep me here. Hunter turned his head toward me, pale, wounded, half-dressed, stitched together by my hands, and still the most frightening man in the room. I can do anything I need to do until I know who tried to put me in the ground. The last lock clicked. Hunter's eyes stayed on mine. No one leaves until I know who betrayed me. Chapter 2. The locks clicked like a sentence, one after another. Back door. Side entrance. Front lobby. Each one sealed me inside my own clinic with a bleeding Mafia don, 3 armed men, and a question no one in that room wanted answered. Who betrayed him? My first mistake had been saving Hunter Narvelle. My second was thinking survival meant the worst was over. I stood beside the exam table with blood drying on my gloves, and my wrist throbbing where his hand had caught me. The overhead light painted every face sharp and colorless. No one moved unless Hunter's eyes allowed it. He was lying down because his body had no choice. But the room belonged to him anyway. You are not locking me in here. Hunter's gaze stayed on mine. I already did. The answer was so calm, so absolute, that for a second my anger had nowhere to land. Then it found my mouth. This is a medical clinic, not your basement. And yet someone used it tonight. No, I snapped. Your men dragged you through my back door. That does not make me part of your war. His jaw tightened. Pain flashed across his face and disappeared so fast I almost doubted I had seen it. Almost. I reached for the blood pressure cuff because apparently my hands had more sense than my temper. Do not touch me. I looked down at him, then die quietly. The largest man made a rough sound behind me. I ignored him. Hunter did not. His eyes cut toward the man, and the room went still again. That was the frightening thing about him. He did not have to raise his voice. He barely had to breathe wrong. Men who carried guns and kicked in locked doors reacted to him like he was the weapon they were all afraid might fire. Then his gaze returned to me. You work here alone? Tonight, yes. Who scheduled you? My supervisor. Name. No. The word came out before fear could soften it. One of the men stepped closer. Answer him. I turned my head slowly. I am the reason he is not a corpse on this table. If you want to scare someone, go find a mirror and practice. His face hardened. Hunter said, Enough. The man stepped back. My stomach twisted, but I kept my hand steady and wrapped the cuff around Hunter's arm. His skin was cold beneath my fingers. Too cold for the heat in his eyes. Blood pressure is still low, watching the numbers climb and settle. You need fluids, antibiotics, imaging, and a real surgical team. I need answers. You need not to bleed internally while interrogating the woman who kept your heart beating. His mouth curved like it wanted to become something mean but did not have the strength. You talk like that to all your patients? Only the ones who kidnap me before discharge. I did not kidnap you. No? What do you call locking every exit? Practical. Try illegal. Try alive. The words landed too close to the center of me. Some small, rational part of my brain understood the math in his voice. He was not locking the doors to scare me. Not only that, he believed someone in this building or connected to this night had helped put those wounds in his body. And I was standing in the middle of it with no badge, no backup, and no idea what I had seen. Hunter studied my face like he could read the thought before I swallowed it. Who knew you would be here? My supervisor. The doctor on call. The cleaning service, maybe. Anyone with access to the schedule. Did anyone call tonight before we arrived? No. Any cancellations? No. Any new patients? One broken hand. He left before you came in. Name. I am not giving you patient information. His eyes narrowed. I tightened the cuff strap unnecessarily because my hands needed something to do. You can glare at me until sunrise. I am still not violating another patient's privacy because you woke up suspicious. I woke up alive. There is a difference. The words were flat, but something under them cut. Alive meant unfinished business. Alive meant whoever had tried to kill him might try again. I glanced at the bullet tray before I could stop myself. Hunter saw it. What did you notice? Your blood pressure. Kayla? My name in his voice did something strange to the room. Not soft, but precise. Like he had taken ownership of those two syllables, simply by deciding to use them. I had not told him my name. The realization slid cold down my back. One of his men must have read my badge. Or my charting login. Or maybe they had already known before they came. I did not like any of those answers. I lifted my chin. Do not say my name like you have a right to it. His eyes darkened by a fraction. The man near the door shifted again. The clean one. He had not spoken much since Hunter woke. He stood half in shadow beside the closed hallway, rain drying on the shoulders of his coat. His hands were empty now, but nothing about him felt unarmed. He watched Hunter with the careful attention of a man trained to obey and calculate at the same time. And there it was again, that faint, expensive scent under the antiseptic. Cedar, smoke, something sharp and cold. Too elegant for the room, too composed for the night. I looked away before he caught me staring. Hunter did not. What did you see? He asked. My mouth went dry. I saw that your bullet wound looked too close. I saw that the knife came after. I saw that one of your men was cleaner than he should be. I saw you warn me not to trust them. I said none of that. Not with those men listening. I saw a patient losing blood. That is all I know for certain. Hunter's stare held me in place. You are careful. I am trapped. Both can be true. A pulse beat hard in my throat. What exactly do you think I did? Scheduled your assassination between restocking gauze and ignoring my own dinner? One of his men glanced at the phone on the counter. My phone, still face down where I had left it. Marcus's missed call hidden underneath it like a private failure. Hunter followed the glance. Whose call did you ignore? My body went tight before I could stop it. That was all it took. His attention sharpened. No one. Wrong answer. It is my brother. Because lying badly to Hunter Narvelle felt more dangerous than the truth. He calls when he panics. It has nothing to do with you. Everything in this room has something to do with me. No. Anger flaring hot enough to steady me. That is your sickness talking. Not everything belongs to you. For the first time, something in him stilled for a reason that had nothing to do with pain. The men behind me reacted like I had slapped him. Maybe I had. Not with my hand. With the idea that there were things his reach could not touch, Hunter's voice dropped. You have no idea what belongs to me. And you have no idea what I have already lost keeping other people alive. The words came out before I could cage them. Too much. Too personal. His gaze changed. Not pity. I would have hated that. Attention. The kind that felt worse because it saw where the armor had slipped. A door opened somewhere deeper in the clinic. Not an exit. The interior hall. All 4 men turned. A 5th man stepped into the trauma bay like he had been there all along, waiting for the exact moment to show himself. He was tall, lean, and controlled in a way that made the others look rough around the edges. His dark coat was wet, but not soaked. His hair was slicked back from a hard, elegant face. Nothing about him looked panicked. His eyes moved over Hunter first. Then me. Not curious, assessing. Silas, Hunter said. So this was Silas. The name did not mean anything to me, but the room changed around it. The big man lowered his eyes. The others shifted to make space. Second in command, my instincts whispered. Silas Creed walked closer to the exam table, his gaze flicking once to the bullet tray, once to my hands, once to the locked doors. She is still here, he said. My skin prickled. Hunter's expression did not move. She saved my life. Silas looked at me again. The corner of his mouth barely lifted. Then she saw too much. The quiet in the room sharpened. I turned toward Hunter before I could stop myself. He was already watching me, and the look in his eyes told me Silas had not warned him of anything he had not already decided. Hunter's voice came low, wrecked, and certain. Yes, she did. Silas's words did not sound like a threat. That made them worse. He said them as if I had become a fact on a ledger, a number in a column, a complication to be handled before sunrise. She saw too much. My fingers tightened around the edge of the metal tray. The bullet inside it rolled slightly, a small, ugly sound in the quiet. I am standing right here. Silas looked at me like that changed nothing. Hunter did not take his eyes off me. I know. That answer scraped over my nerves, not because it was loud, because it was certain. The big man near the monitor shifted, uncomfortable for the first time since the doors had locked. Rain tapped hard against the windows in the front hall. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and wet wool, and the coppery evidence no mop could erase before morning. Silas stepped closer to Hunter's table. We need to move you. You need to stop giving orders in front of me like I am furniture. His gaze slid to me again. You are a nurse in a private clinic that just became part of a war you do not understand. And you are standing in my trauma bay with dirty shoes and no medical degree. The corner of his mouth twitched, but his eyes stayed cold. Hunter made a rough sound. It might have been pain. It might have been amusement dying before it reached his face. Silas glanced down at him. She is bold. She is alive because she is useful, Hunter said. The words should not have hurt. They did anyway. I had saved him, kept his pulse under my fingers, pulled metal from his body, stitched his flesh closed while men with guns watched me breathe. Useful. That was all anyone ever needed me to be. I stripped off my gloves and threw them into the biohazard bin harder than necessary. Then let me be useful from outside this locked room. No, Hunter said. I stared at him. No. You leave when I say you leave. My laugh came out thin. You have blood loss, a possible internal injury, and the personality of a slammed door. You are not in charge of my life. Every man in that room went still. Hunter's eyes sharpened. For a second, I thought he would explode. Instead, he spoke softly. I am in charge of whether you survive the next 12 hours. The air left me in one hard breath. Silas watched us too closely. That bothered me more than Hunter's threat. Hunter was direct. Terrifying, yes, but direct. Silas was polished quiet, and the quiet had edges. I reached for the chart because I needed my hands occupied before fear climbed into them. He cannot be moved without risking more bleeding. Silas said, We have doctors. Then you should have brought him to one. A flicker passed over his face. Tiny. There and gone. Hunter saw me see it. His gaze cut toward Silas, then back to me. The room changed again. Not enough for anyone to accuse anyone. Enough for every breath to matter. Hunter finally said, Leave us. Silas did not move immediately. The big man looked at him. So did the others. Then Silas inclined his head, turned, and walked into the hall with the same smooth control he had entered with. The others followed, though not far. I could hear them beyond the doorway, low voices and heavy steps. Hunter and I were alone only by technicality. I checked the IV line. You need antibiotics every 8 hours. You need imaging. If you spike a fever, if your abdomen hardens, if your breathing changes, someone needs to get you real surgical care. Do you always lecture men who could ruin your life? Only when they are trying to die after I did excellent work. His stare held mine. It should have frightened me. It did. But it also pinned something restless inside me, something angry enough to stand upright instead of shaking. Dawn began to gray the windows by the time Hunter gave the order. The locks opened, not because I had won, because he had decided the night had taken enough from him. Silas returned with a black coat folded over one arm and tension tucked neatly behind his expression. Hunter did not look at him. He looked at me. You speak of this to no one. I picked up my phone from the counter. My thumb hovered over the screen. 3 more missed calls from Marcus. My stomach tightened. I am not one of your men. No, Hunter said. If you were, you would know better than to argue. I never want to see you again. The words came out sharper than I expected. Honest enough to burn. Hunter's face did not change. But his eyes did. Not softer. Darker. That stopped being possible when you saved me. A chill moved through me. And some part of me believed him. I walked out of St. Orleans with my jacket over blood-spattered scrubs and the storm fading into a dirty morning drizzle. No one stopped me. No one followed close enough for me to see. That should have comforted me. It did not. By the time I reached my apartment, my hands had started to shake. Not in the clinic. Not when Hunter grabbed me. Not when the locks clicked shut. Only after. I dropped my keys twice before I got the door open. Inside, everything looked normal at first. Small living room. Cheap gray couch. Stack of mail on the table. A half-dead plant I kept forgetting to water and refusing to throw away. I locked the door behind me. Then I locked the chain. Then I stood there listening to my own breathing like I was a patient I needed to monitor. My phone showed Marcus again. I called him back, straight to voicemail. Marcus, I said, trying not to sound scared and failing. Call me. Right now. I mean it. I ended the call and went straight to the bathroom. The first scrub of hot water over my hands turned pink in the sink. I scrubbed harder. Hunter's blood had dried beneath the edges of my nails, in the fine lines of my knuckles, around my wrist where his fingers had closed like a warning. I could still hear his voice. Do not trust them. I shut off the water and reached for a towel. That was when I saw the mirror. At first, my mind refused to understand it. The words were too red, too deliberate. Written across the glass in thick, uneven strokes that dripped toward the sink. You saved the wrong man. The towel slipped from my hand. For one suspended second, I could not move. Then every small wrongness in the apartment came alive at once. The medicine cabinet opened half an inch. The shower curtain shifted. My bedroom door wider than I had left it. Someone had been inside. Someone might still be inside. I backed out of the bathroom, my phone clutched so tightly my fingers hurt. I had dialed 2 numbers before I even knew which one I meant to call. Not Marcus. Not the clinic. Emergency services. The knock came before I hit call. 3 hard strikes on my front door. I stopped breathing. Another knock. Then a voice I already knew I would hear again, no matter how badly I had lied to myself. Kayla, Hunter. I moved to the door and looked through the peephole. He stood in the hallway in a black coat, pale but upright, with the big man behind him and another shadow near the stairwell. He should have been in a bed. He should have been under monitoring. He should have been anywhere but outside my apartment less than 2 hours after being stitched together. I opened the door with the chain still on. What are you doing here? His gaze moved over my face once, then past me, into the apartment. What happened? You tell me. My voice shook, and I hated that he heard it. Did you have me followed? Yes. No hesitation. Rage cut clean through the fear. You arrogant! You were breathing when you left me, he said. I intended for that to continue. Someone broke into my home. I know. The hallway tilted slightly. You know? His eyes went past me again, harder now. Move. No, Kayla. No. You do not get to order me in my doorway after your life ruined mine overnight. His jaw clenched. Pain pulled at his mouth, but he stayed standing by will alone. You are not safe here. I was safe before you came through my clinic. No, you thought you were. The certainty in his voice frightened me more than the message on my mirror. I shoved the door wider, chain rattling between us. I am calling the police. Something exploded through the living room window. Glass burst inward. The sound hit before the fear did. Hunter moved faster than an injured man had any right to move. The chain snapped under his shoulder as he forced the door open and drove into me, wrapping one arm around my waist and taking me down hard beneath him. My back hit the floor. His body covered mine. A second shot tore through the wall above us. I could feel his breath against my ear, rough with pain. His weight should have crushed me. Instead, it shielded every vulnerable part of me from the window. Stay down! For once, I did not argue. His coat smelled of rain, smoke, and blood beneath something darker. His hand braced beside my head. The other held me so tightly I could feel the tremor in his fingers. Not weakness. Control, barely holding. Men shouted in the hallway. Someone returned fire. My ears rang. My living room filled with cold air and shattered glass. Hunter lifted his head enough to look down at me. His eyes were not calm now. They were brutal, furious, possessive in a way I had no name for and no defense against. I told you, his voice low against my temple, you were not safe. Then he dragged me up from the floor like the building was already burning. I stumbled over glass. Hunter, no. One word, final. His arm locked around me, not gentle, but careful enough not to hurt. His blood had started seeping through his coat near his side. You are bleeding, because terror had not killed the nurse in me. And you are being hunted. He pulled me into the hallway while his men closed around us. I tried to twist away. I am not going with you. Hunter looked down at me, pale, wounded, and terrifyingly steady. You can hate me behind my walls. You are not dying in yours. Chapter 3. I left my apartment with glass in my hair and Hunter Narvelle's blood on my shirt, not because I agreed, not because I trusted him, because the second bullet had gone through the wall exactly where my head had been 3 seconds before, and fear, real fear, did not leave room for pride to stand upright. Hunter's arm stayed locked around my waist as his men moved us down the hallway. Doors cracked open. A woman across from me gasped and disappeared back inside. Somewhere below, a baby started crying. My bare feet nearly slipped on the stairwell tile before I realized I had left my shoes behind. Hunter noticed. Lift her. I can walk. I snapped. The large man from the clinic reached for me. I jerked back. Touch me and I will make sure whatever doctor patches you up finds my name carved into the chart. For half a second, the man looked amused. Hunter did not. His grip tightened just enough to still me. Then walk faster. I was shot at, dragged out of my home, and kidnapped before breakfast. Forgive me if I am not moving at Mafia speed. Pain flashed across his face, sharp and quick. His wound had opened. I could feel it in the way his body pulled against mine, the controlled drag in his breath, the heat of fresh blood beneath the dark coat pressed to my side. You are bleeding, and you are alive. That is not medical treatment. No, it is priority. The words shut my mouth for exactly 3 steps. Outside, dawn had not fully broken. The street was blue-gray, wet from the storm, and crawling with black SUVs that had not been there when I came home. Men stood near them with weapons hidden badly beneath coats. They watched windows, corners, rooftops. Not me, not at first. They watched the world like they expected it to attack. One of them opened the rear door of the nearest SUV. Hunter pushed me in before I could argue again, then followed with a stiffness he failed to hide. He sat across from me, not beside me, knees braced, one hand pressed low to his side beneath the coat. Blood leaked between his fingers. I stared at it. He stared at me. The door shut, sealing us inside leather, smoke, rain, and the suffocating fact that I was no longer in control of where my own body went. The vehicle moved. I grabbed the door handle. It did not open. Hunter's eyes lowered to my hand. Do not unlock it. No, you cannot just take people. I just did. The calmness of it snapped something in me. I leaned forward. I am a nurse. I am a person. I have a job, a landlord, neighbors, a brother who keeps calling me, and an apartment with bullets in the walls because of you. His jaw flexed at the word brother, but he said nothing. You do not get to decide my life because your enemies missed. They did not miss you. The SUV hit a turn. I grabbed the seat to steady myself. Hunter's gaze did not move. They shot through your window after you saw the message. That was not warning fire. That was cleanup. Cleanup. Like I was a spill on a floor. My stomach rolled. I looked out the tinted window because I refused to let him see that the word had landed. City blocks slid by in washed-out streaks, storefronts with metal grates, empty bus stops, men huddled beneath awnings, normal people waking up to normal lives while mine had been ripped open and hauled into the back of a Mafia car. You should be in a hospital. He gave a faint, humorless exhale. You keep saying that like hospitals are safe. They have surgeons. They have records. They have antibiotics, operating rooms, and staff who are not actively committing felonies. His mouth tightened. You are angry. I am amazed by your diagnostic skill. Something almost shifted in his expression. Almost. Then the SUV slowed. We turned off the main road, passed through a black iron gate that opened before the vehicle stopped, then climbed a long private drive bordered by stone walls and cameras hidden among dead winter vines. I expected a mansion. I got a fortress pretending to be one. The estate rose from the gray morning, like something built by a man who had studied wealth and decided comfort was a security risk. Black stone. Narrow windows, reinforced doors, guard posts tucked beneath sharp roof lines. No fountains, no marble angels, no grand invitation to admire how rich the owner was. Hunter Narvelle did not live like a king enjoying his crown. He lived like someone was always coming to take it. The SUV stopped beneath a covered entrance. Men moved before the engine cut off. I reached for the opposite door. Hunter's voice stopped me. "Wait." I turned on him. "For permission?" "For the men outside to clear the line of sight." I hated that my eyes went to the windows. I hated more that I understood. A guard opened my door a moment later. Cold air rushed in. I stepped out barefoot onto wet stone and immediately felt how exposed I was despite the armed men surrounding us. Hunter came around the vehicle slower than before. I saw the blood now, dark against the side of his coat. Nurse instinct overpowered common sense. "You need that wound checked." His eyes found mine. "Inside. Now. Inside, Kayla." My name in his mouth like a locked door. I wanted to tell him not to say it. I wanted to tell him he had no right to make it sound familiar. But a guard stepped too close behind me, and the fight shifted. "Back up," I said without looking. The guard stopped. Hunter looked at him once. The guard backed up. Small thing. Dangerous thing. Because it proved Hunter did not have to touch me to move the world around me. Inside, the house was colder than it should have been. Dark floors. High ceilings. Minimal furniture. Cameras tucked where art should have been. Men stationed at corners, silent and watchful. No family photographs. No softness. No life that did not know how to defend itself. I was led down a wide hall to a guest room with a bed too large, windows too thick, and a lock on the outside of the door. I saw it immediately. So did Hunter. "This is where you will stay." I turned slowly. "Absolutely not. It is secure. It has a lock on the outside. For emergencies. For prisoners." His expression hardened. "You are under protection. Protection does not come with exterior locks. It does when someone tried to kill you less than an hour ago. And whose fault was that?" The silence after it was brutal. One of the guards looked away. Hunter did not. His face remained carved in that hard, merciless control, but his hand pressed tighter against his side, and for the first time since the apartment, I saw the strain beneath the command. Pale skin, shallow breath. A fine tremor in the hand he was using to hide the blood. He was standing by force of will and arrogance, nothing else. Good, I told myself. Let him hurt. Then the nurse in me betrayed me. Sit down before you pass out and make all this kidnapping look unprofessional. A low sound came from one of the guards. Hunter's eyes cut toward him. Silence returned. I crossed the room, found the bathroom, and opened cabinets until I located clean towels. Medical kit? Hunter said, being brought. Phone, keys, shoes, my bag. No, I faced him with a towel in my hand. Excuse me? You get what I decide you need until I know where the threat is coming from. I laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You cannot be serious. Do I look like a man who jokes often? You look like a man about to bleed on expensive flooring. That time, something did move in his eyes. Interest. Then another voice came from the doorway. She is a liability with a mouth. Silas Creed stood just outside the room, clean and composed, as if the night had not touched him. Dark coat. Smooth expression. Eyes that assessed every inch of the space before settling on me. My body remembered him before my mind finished reacting. The clinic, the bullet tray. She saw too much. Hunter did not turn around. I did not ask. Silas stepped in anyway. You need treatment, and she needs rules. I am right here. Silas looked at me. That is the problem. Hunter's voice dropped. Enough. Silas stopped. Not because he was afraid. Because he chose to. I noticed the difference, and cold slid under my skin. Hunter looked at me then, pale and bleeding in the doorway of a room that felt less like shelter and more like a beautiful cage. "You will not leave without guards," he said. "You will not answer unknown numbers. You will not contact police. You will not trust anyone who comes claiming they can help you. My life is not a list of your rules. It is until the people hunting you are dead." My phone rang from inside the plastic evidence bag one of his men carried. The sound sliced through the room. I knew the ringtone before I saw the screen. "Marcus." Hunter's gaze dropped to the phone, then slowly lifted back to my face. "Answer it," he said. And for the first time since I had been dragged from my apartment, I was more afraid of the call than I was of him. Hunter did not hand me the phone. One of his men did. That should not have bothered me as much as it did. But there was something humiliating about watching my own life get passed across a room by strangers with guns. The screen flashed again. "Marcus!" My thumb shook when I answered. "Marcus?" Static hissed over the line. Then my brother's breath came through, fast and ragged. "Kayla?" I turned away from Hunter on instinct, but there was nowhere private to go. He was standing 3 feet from me, bleeding through his coat like stubbornness alone could cauterize a wound. Silas remained near the doorway, still as a blade in a sleeve. "Where are you?" I asked. "I messed up." "You said that already. Where are you?" I didn't know who else to call. Cold gathered beneath my ribs. Marcus only sounded like that when trouble had stopped being theoretical. "Talk to me." A noise came through the phone. Traffic, maybe. Wind. Then his voice dropped to a whisper. "They came by the apartment." My fingers tightened around the phone. Whose apartment? Mine. They broke the lock. I wasn't there, but Javi called me. He said they tore the place apart. Hunter's eyes sharpened at the edge of my vision. I moved toward the bathroom door, trying to put distance between us. Hunter moved with me. "What men?" I asked. "I don't know." "Marcus, I don't know their names, but you know why they came." Silence. That silence hurt worse than an answer. I closed my eyes. "How much?" "Kay, how much do you owe?" His breath broke. "It started at 8. My stomach dropped. 8,000? It's not 8 anymore. The room seemed to narrow, Silas's attention fixed fully on me. Hunter watched my face, not the phone, as if every flinch translated into language he understood better than speech. "How much, Marcus?" "I don't know," they said. "Interest. Penalty. Moving fee." I swear I was going to fix it. "With what money?" I had a thing lined up. A thing. My voice went quiet. That was always worse than shouting. Marcus knew that. "You borrowed from criminals and planned to fix it with a thing?" I thought I could flip it fast. I pressed my free hand against my forehead. "Jesus, Marcus?" "I was trying to pay you back." The words cut straight through my anger. I looked down at my scrubs, at the blood dried into the fabric, at the body. I had not had time to be afraid inside because everyone else's emergency kept arriving first. "You do not pay me back by getting yourself killed." I know that now." A sound came from his end of the line. A muffled thud, a distant voice. Marcus went silent. "Where are you?" I demanded. "I'm moving." "Moving where?" "I can't stay in one place." "Give me an address." "No, Marcus. If I tell you, you'll come, and I can't let you do that." My throat tightened. "I am your sister. That is exactly what I do." "That's the problem," he whispered. Then the line cracked, and for one horrible second I lost him. "Marcus? I have to go." "No, listen to me. Tell me who they are. Give me something." He breathed hard. Then he said one word I did not recognize. Belanti. Hunter went completely still, not the stillness of pain, the stillness of a weapon being loaded. I saw it before I understood it. Silas saw it too. My grip went slick around the phone. What did you say? That's the name, or family, crew. I don't know. One of the guys had this ring with a black stone and a gold bee, and another one said Belanti doesn't wait twice. Hunter's voice cut in, low and lethal. Ask him who gave him the loan. Marcus heard him. Kayla, he said sharply. Who is that? No one. Hunter's gaze slid to me. A lie, and a bad one. Kayla, who is with you? Tell me who gave you the loan. I have to go. No, I'm sorry. Marcus! The call ended. The silence after was not empty. It was crowded with everything I did not understand. I stared at the black screen until my reflection appeared in it, pale and wild-eyed. Then I looked at Hunter. What is Belanti? No one answered fast enough. That told me enough to be afraid. Hunter reached for the phone. I stepped back. No. His eyes flashed. Give it to me. It is my phone. It is evidence. It is my brother. His hand stopped halfway between us. That mattered. I did not want it to matter, but it did. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Your brother borrowed from the wrong bloodline. Bloodline? Silas spoke from the doorway. The Belanti family. Hunter's head turned slightly. He did not look pleased that Silas had answered. I looked between them. Am I supposed to know what that means? It means, Hunter said, your brother owes money to men who collect more than money. The floor felt unsteady beneath me. What does that have to do with you? His silence changed the room. Silas looked away first. Hunter did not. The Belantis are old family. Old money. Old rules. They dress murder in manners and call it tradition. And you? The question came out before I could stop it. His eyes hardened. I am what happens when tradition forgets. The streets have teeth. A chill ran through me. Not from fear alone. From the way he said it. No pride. No apology. Just a fact carved out of something brutal. They hate you. Yes. And Marcus owes them. Yes. And someone tried to kill you last night. His stare held mine. I heard my own breathing. No, because the shape forming in my mind was too large, too impossible. No, my brother is an idiot, but he is not part of some mafia war. I did not say he was part of it. Then what are you saying? I am saying your brother may have been used as a hook. I recoiled. For me? For me. For you. For whoever thought a debt, a clinic, and a dying man could all be aimed in the same direction. The words landed one at a time. A debt, a clinic, a dying man. My mouth went dry. You think Marcus's debt has something to do with why you were brought to me. I think coincidence is what people call a trap before they understand. I hated him then, not because he was wrong. Because some instinct deep inside me feared he was not. My knees felt unreliable, but I refused to sit on the bed. Not in that room. Not behind that lock. Not with Silas watching me like I had become one more weakness in the architecture. Hunter swayed. Barely. I saw it anyway. You need to sit, I said automatically. Silas stepped forward. He needs our physician. He needs both, I snapped. And unless your physician is already here with imaging, antibiotics, and an extra spine for his common sense, he is going to sit down while I stop him from bleeding through whatever dramatic point he thinks he is making. For the first time, one of Hunter's guards made the mistake of smiling. Hunter's eyes cut toward him. The smile vanished, but Hunter sat on the edge of the bed, slowly, angrily, like gravity had offended him. I opened the medical kit a guard brought in and knelt in front of him before I remembered I hated him. The coat came open under my hands. His shirt beneath was dark and wet at the side. The bandage had soaked through. Of course it had. Hunter looked down at me. You talk to wounds too? I talk to stupidity wherever I find it. Brave habit. Exhausting one. I pressed fresh gauze to his side. His abdomen tensed, but he made no sound. Silas remained near the doorway, arms folded. This is exactly the problem. I did not look back. My medical care? Her involvement, he said to Hunter. Hunter's voice cooled. Choose your next words carefully. Silas chose silence. I taped the gauze tighter than necessary. Hunter's gaze dropped to my hands. You will stay here. I laughed under my breath. We are back to that? I will erase your brother's debt. My hands stopped. Hunter continued, each word controlled. I will find him. I will put guards on him. I will keep the Balantis from reaching either of you. And, in exchange? His eyes met mine. You stay under my roof until I know who set this in motion. There it was. The bargain. The cage with better lighting. I rose slowly. You think because you say protection, I will not hear ownership. I am not offering ownership. No, you take my phone, lock me in a room, put rules on my life, and now you want to purchase my obedience with my brother's safety. I want you alive. You want control. I want both. The honesty hit harder than a lie. I stepped back from him. I am not for sale, Hunter. His expression did not soften, but something in his eyes turned rougher. I am not buying you. Then what are you doing? Keeping you breathing long enough for you to hate me properly. My phone rang again, not a call, a message. The screen lit where it lay on the bed between us. Unknown number. My heart climbed into my throat before I touched it. One line of text. Marcus Thompson is gone. A second message arrived beneath it. Last seen getting into a black car with one of Narvelle's men. The room dropped into a silence so sharp it felt like a blade had been placed against every throat. I looked at Hunter, the man who said he could protect my brother, the man whose house I had been dragged into, the man whose world had swallowed mine whole before I even understood the rules. What did you do? I whispered. Chapter 4. For one terrible second, I wanted Hunter Narvelle to be guilty. Because guilty had a shape. Guilty had a face I could scream at, a chest I could shove, a name I could hate until my brother came home. But Hunter only stared at the message on my phone, and something lethal moved behind his eyes. Not surprise, not innocence, calculation. That was worse. What did you do? I asked again, my voice barely holding. The room sharpened around us. Silas stood in the doorway. 2 guards waited beyond him. Hunter sat on the edge of the bed with fresh gauze pressed to his side, pale beneath the harsh morning light, his body stitched together by my hands and still somehow making everyone else feel breakable. His gaze lifted from the phone to me. I did not take your brother. Then why is someone saying he was last seen with one of your men? Because someone wants you asking that question. I laughed once, but it broke in my throat. That is convenient. His face hardened. It is true. You expect me to believe you? No. The answer hit too fast. Hunter pushed himself up from the bed. I stepped back. Sit down. No. You are bleeding. You are panicking. My brother is missing. And if you keep shouting instead of thinking, whoever took him wins the first round. The words were brutal enough to cut through my fear. I gripped the phone until the edge dug into my palm. Do not talk to me like this is strategy. This is Marcus. He is 24, reckless, scared, and stupid when he thinks he has to fix things alone, but he is my brother. Hunter's jaw flexed. Silas said from the doorway, "Which makes him leverage." My head snapped toward him. Hunter's voice dropped. "Silas!" A warning. Silas did not apologize. He only looked at me with that cool, dissecting stare. If the Balantis have him, panic will not retrieve him. Discipline might. Do not say his name like he is a chess piece. In this world, everyone is. Not in mine. Silas's mouth curved faintly. Your world ended when the first shot went through your window. The sentence landed like a slap. I moved before I thought, one step toward him. But Hunter was suddenly between us. Not fast, not clean. He swayed when he stood, and blood darkened the edge of the bandage beneath his shirt. But he still put his body in a line between me and his second in command, like the room had shifted around my anger. Silas noticed. So did I. Hunter did not look away from him. Leave. Silas's eyes narrowed. You need men moving. They will move when I tell them to. Leave. For a moment I thought Silas might refuse. He did not. He stepped back into the hall, but the look he gave me before turning away carried no threat loud enough to accuse. Just dislike, precise and cold. Hunter waited until his footsteps faded. Then he turned on me. You do not step toward men in my house. Something hot and ugly broke loose in my chest. Your house? Your men? Your rules? You hear yourself, right? I hear you ignoring danger because you are angry. I am angry because my brother may have been taken by someone connected to you, connected to my enemies. Enemies you brought to my clinic, enemies who shot through my apartment, enemies who wrote on my mirror. I did not bring them to you. You came bleeding to my table and everything I had left caught fire. He went still. The words hung between us, too honest to take back. For a heartbeat, the room seemed to shrink to the blood on his side, the phone in my hand, and the unbearable fact that I was trapped with a man who might be the only person powerful enough to find Marcus. Hunter's voice came lower. Men like me do not need to steal frightened boys to control women. I flinched because the sentence sounded too close to something personal, too old, too certain. He continued, each word measured. If I wanted to control you, Kayla, you would know it. You think this is not control? I think you are alive enough to hate me. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have time for. He looked past me toward the hall. Anton. The large man from the clinic appeared almost instantly. I finally had a name for him now. Anton. Built like a locked door. Face hard, eyes not unkind. Find Marcus Thompson, Hunter said. Anton took out a phone. Last known? Hunter held out his hand. I did not give him my phone. His eyes cut to mine. No. You do not get to take it. I need the number. You can have the number, not the phone. Anton looked between us like he was watching two lit matches fall into gasoline. Hunter's mouth tightened. Then he gave one short nod. Small, reluctant, but it was the first time he had bent even an inch. I read Marcus's number out loud. Then, the unknown number. Anton repeated both into his phone, already walking into the hall. Within seconds, the house changed. Not loudly, efficiently. Men moved past the open doorway. Doors opened and closed. Voices dropped into coded fragments. Someone asked about traffic cameras. Someone else mentioned hospitals, impound lots, burner phones, and a black sedan heading east. The estate that had felt like stone and silence suddenly became a living machine. All of it moved because Hunter had spoken. That should have terrified me. It did. But beneath the fear was something I hated more. Hope. Thin. Unwanted. Dangerous. Hunter picked up on it. We will find him. You do not know that. I know my city. Is that supposed to comfort me? No. It is supposed to inform you. I dragged a hand over my face. My fingers smelled faintly of antiseptic in his blood. You need to sit before your city has to find you on the floor. I have had worse. That is not the heroic line men think it is. His gaze held mine. For a second, exhaustion slipped under the anger. Mine, not his. Or maybe both. I looked away first. On the far wall, a security monitor showed 4 different exterior angles of the estate. Guards at the gate. Cameras turning. Black cars waiting. Men in dark coats moving with purpose. Do they all fear you? I asked before I could stop myself. Hunter followed my gaze. Some. And the rest? They know what I do for people who stand with me. That answer was not soft. It was not noble. But it complicated him, and I did not want him complicated. Complicated was harder to hate. A guard entered carrying a tablet. We pulled the street feed near Miss Thompson's building. Black car, partial plate. 1 man visible, not ours. Hunter took the tablet. My breath caught. Let me see. The guard hesitated. I reached for it anyway. Hunter handed it to me before the guard could decide. The image was grainy. A black car at the curb. A man holding the rear door open. Marcus's shape blurred as he bent into the back seat. Not forced, not obviously, but not calm either. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. That is him, I whispered. Hunter's expression sharpened. Was he injured? I cannot tell. Did he know the man? I cannot tell. Kayla! I cannot tell. My voice cracked on the last word. Hunter's hand lifted like he meant to reach for me. He stopped before touching. That restraint frightened me more than force would have, because it meant he had thought about it. The tablet blurred in my hands. I forced the tears back before they could fall. Crying would not find Marcus. Falling apart would not save him. I had learned that young. You could panic later. After everyone else was breathing. Hunter watched me like he understood that rule, or like he had written it in blood long before I learned it. Anton will find the car, he said. My people will find the driver. If your brother is in the city, I will know where before night. And if he is not? His eyes went colder. Then someone made a worse mistake than taking him. A chill moved through me. Not because the promise was cruel. Because for one desperate second, I wanted to believe in the monster making it. That scared me enough to step away from him. Hunter watched me do it. He did not stop me. He only handed the tablet back to his guard and said, "Run the plate." Every camera within 6 blocks, every toll road, every garage. If the car vanished, find where it was meant to vanish. The guard nodded and left. The machinery of Hunter's world kept moving beyond the room. Low voices. Footsteps. Phones ringing once before being answered. Men repeating orders like they had learned years ago that hesitation could get them buried. I stood near the window with my arms wrapped around myself, not because I was cold, but because if I did not hold on to something, I might come apart. On the security monitors, men moved through the estate gates. Others waited near black vehicles with engines running. No one laughed. No one questioned. They looked hard, dangerous, and loyal in a way I did not understand. You feed all of them fear? I asked. Hunter was still standing when he should not have been. Fear does not hold men long. I glanced at him. Then what does? He looked at the monitors instead of me. Debt, loyalty, proof. Proof of what? That when they bleed for me, I bleed back. The sentence should have sounded like arrogance. It did not. It sounded like a rule he had carved into himself and forced the world to obey. Before I could decide what to do with that, another man entered carrying a black leather medical bag. Behind him came an older woman with silver hair pulled into a severe knot, sharp eyes, and the kind of calm that did not ask permission from dangerous men. "Mr. Narvelle," she said, "you are standing again." Hunter looked mildly irritated. "Mara, sit down before I embarrass you in front of the girl." I blinked. The savage Don sat. Not immediately, not happily, but he sat. Mara looked at me. "You are the nurse?" "Yes." "You did clean work." The compliment hit me strangely. I had not realized how badly I needed one until it came from someone who was not holding a gun. "Thank you." She opened the bag and began setting out supplies with practiced speed. "Hold pressure here." I moved before thinking, taking gauze from her hand and pressing it against Hunter's side. His body tightened beneath my touch. "Pain?" I asked. "No," Mara snorted. "Liar." For half a second, something almost normal entered the room. Then Hunter's eyes lowered to my hands, and whatever normal was shattered quietly. His skin was warm now, too warm near the wound, cool where blood loss had not finished punishing him. I peeled the soaked bandage away with care. The stitches had held, mostly, but the area around them was angry from too much movement. "You tore the outer edge. I was busy." "You were being shot at after being shot and stabbed. That is not busy. That is poor planning." Mara's mouth twitched. Hunter's gaze lifted to my face. "You lecture when afraid. I lecture when surrounded by reckless men with no respect for sutures." "Specific fear, then." He caught the shape of it. I bent closer to clean the wound and force my attention to the work. Not his eyes. Not the hard plane of his abdomen under scarred skin. Not the fact that he let me touch him even while every instinct in him seemed built to reject being handled. There were scars everywhere. Old ones. Not clean surgical lines. Rough damage. A puckered mark near his lower ribs. A long pale slash disappearing under the waistband of his trousers. Smaller cuts across his side and shoulder, layered like a history no one had read gently. My fingers slowed before I could stop them. Hunter noticed. "Do not ask." "I did not. You wanted to." I pressed fresh gauze over the torn edge. "I want a lot of things I do not get." That silenced him. Mara glanced between us, then began preparing an injection. "Antibiotic. Pain medicine if he behaves." "I do not need it," Hunter said. "You need many things you refuse," she replied. I should have stepped back and let her take over. Instead, I stayed where I was, holding pressure, because my hands knew what to do even when the rest of me did not. Hunter's voice came lower. "You are staring." I looked at the scar near his ribs. "Someone hurt you badly." "Many people tried." "Tried? I am still here." The answer was so simple, so brutal, that it made my chest ache. Every scar was a survival note, written in flesh. I knew wounds. I knew bodies. I knew what kind of pain left which marks. And looking at Hunter Narvelle, I understood something I had not wanted to understand. He had not become savage in a single night. The world had taken its time making him. Who taught you that being hurt was the same as being strong? I asked softly. Mara's hands stilled. Hunter went utterly motionless. Not his body. Something deeper. For once, no one in the room breathed around him. Not because he commanded it, but because I had touched something none of them dared name. His eyes met mine. There was no anger in them at first. Only a brief, terrible emptiness. Then the walls came back up. "Finish," he said. "One word." Door closed. I nodded as if he had not just made the room colder. Mara completed the dressing with efficient hands, then gave him instructions he clearly planned to ignore. Hunter let her speak because she seemed to be one of the few people alive who could get away with it. A phone rang in the hall. Anton appeared at the doorway. Every nerve in my body tightened. Hunter saw his face and stood before Anton spoke. Mara cursed under her breath. "We found him," Anton said. The world stopped. I turned so fast I almost dropped the bloody gauze. Marcus? Alive. My knees weakened. I grabbed the edge of the bed. Hunter's eyes cut to my hand, then my face. "Where?" "East Warehouse District." "Beaten. Left in a service alley behind a closed meatpacking building. One of our patrols got there before city police." "Bring him here," Hunter said. I looked at him sharply. "No hospital." Anton hesitated. Hunter looked at me. This time he did not dismiss me. "If he needs emergency care, Mara decides. If he can be moved safely, he comes here. The hospital is exposed. I want to see him. You will. Now." Anton said, "He is 10 minutes out." 10 minutes. It sounded like mercy. It felt like a lifetime. I paced until Hunter's men brought my brother into that cold, fortified house wrapped in a blanket with blood on his mouth and shame already in his eyes. "Kayla," Marcus whispered. I reached him before anyone else could. He smelled like rain, sweat, and fear. One eye swelling, lip split, knuckles scraped raw. Not dying. Not safe either. I touched his face, checking pupils before I could hug him. "Do not move." "I'm okay. You are not allowed to decide that." "I'm sorry." The words cracked. Anger rose, huge and hot, tangled with relief so sharp it almost hurt worse. "What did you do?" I whispered. Marcus's eyes filled. "I thought I could fix it." "Fix what?" "Everything." His voice broke. "The rent, your car, Mom's old bills, all the shifts you keep taking because of me. I was gonna flip the money fast and pay them back before you knew." I stared at him. My brother had not borrowed because he wanted fun. He had borrowed because my sacrifices had become a debt he could not stand carrying. That did not make it right. It made it hurt differently. "You almost got yourself killed trying to repay me for keeping you alive." He looked down. "I know." Behind me, the room had gone too quiet. Hunter stood near the wall, expression unreadable. Silas had returned at some point, his face smooth, his eyes moving between Marcus and me like he was studying a weakness that had learned to breathe. Mara took Marcus from my arms to examine him, and I let her because I trusted medicine more than myself in that moment. Silas spoke first. "This is what I meant." Hunter's head turned. Silas looked at him, not me. "The boy is compromised. She is emotional. The Belantis already know she matters enough to bring here. Keeping them under this roof invites another blade to your ribs." I went still. Hunter did not move. Silas continued, voice calm, reasonable, deadly. "Send them away with guards, or remove the problem before it becomes the center of this house." My blood iced over. Hunter crossed the room so fast that even wounded, he seemed to steal the space between one breath and the next. He stopped inches from Silas. The entire room braced. When Hunter spoke, his voice was quiet enough to terrify. "Listen carefully." Silas held his stare. "If Kayla is touched," Hunter said, "if her brother is used again, if one hair on her head becomes the price of someone else's ambition, I will bury the man responsible." Silas's expression did not change. Hunter leaned closer. "Even if he wears my colors." Chapter 5, Hunter Narvelle had just threatened to bury one of his own men for me, and I had no idea whether that made me safer or doomed. The room held still around his words, every guard, every breath, every shadow waiting to see if Silas Creed would be foolish enough to test the line Hunter had drawn in blood. Silas did not move. For one long second, he only looked at Hunter with that cold, polished calm of his, as if he were not standing inches from a man who could order his death and have the room obey before his body hit the floor. Then Silas lowered his eyes. Not much. Just enough. As you say, he murmured. Hunter did not answer. Silas turned and left. The moment he disappeared from the doorway, air returned to the room in pieces. Anton shifted near the wall. Mara resumed checking Marcus's pulse like men threatening each other was background noise. My brother sat on the edge of the bed with a blanket around his shoulders, one eye swollen, mouth split, guilt carved into every inch of his face. I should have gone after Silas with 1,000 questions. I should have demanded to know why Hunter's own second-in-command looked at me like something that needed removing. Instead, I crossed to Marcus and touched 2 fingers to the side of his neck. His pulse was fast. So was mine. I'm okay, he said. You keep saying that like it will become true if you annoy me enough. His mouth trembled. He tried to smile and failed. That almost broke me. Anger was easier when he looked reckless. Harder when he looked 24 and terrified, with dried blood at the corner of his lip and shame sitting heavier on him than the bruises. Mara straightened. No broken ribs that I can feel. Concussion possible. He needs watching for the next 24 hours. I can watch him. Hunter's voice came from behind me. You need sleep. I did not turn around. And you need a hospital. Apparently, neither of us is getting what we need. Marcus's gaze flicked over my shoulder and widened slightly. Even bruised, my brother had enough sense to be afraid of Hunter Narvelle. Good. At least one of us still had survival instincts intact. Mara packed her bag. He can rest here for now. Wake him every 2 hours. No alcohol. No sedatives. If he vomits, slurs, or loses consciousness, call me immediately. I know concussion protocol. I said, softer this time. Mara looked at me for a moment. Something like sympathy touched her sharp eyes. Knowing it for strangers is different. Then she left. The room thinned until it was me, Marcus, Hunter, Anton by the door, and the silence none of us knew how to survive. Marcus stared down at his scraped hands. Kayla, Not yet. His face crumpled. I hated myself for the relief that came with stopping him. If he apologized, I might forgive him too soon. If I forgave him too soon, I would forget to be angry enough to keep him alive next time. So I tucked the blanket tighter around his shoulders like love could be folded into wool, then stood, before my hands started shaking again. I need water. Hunter nodded once to Anton. Anton moved. I can get my own water. No. I finally turned to face him. He looked worse in the daylight. Pale beneath the bruises, mouth tight. Dark shirt open enough to show the edge of the bandage I had changed, already threatening to stain again because he refused to behave like a patient and insisted on standing like a warning sign. You just threatened your second in command. I corrected him. You threatened to bury him. He understood the correction. Marcus made a small, strangled sound from the bed. I shot him a look. You are not allowed to react. You owe money to people with family crests and kidnapping hobbies. His mouth shut. Hunter watched us, not like a man amused. Like a man trying to understand a language he had heard all his life but never learned how to speak. What? I asked. Nothing. No. You do not get to stare at me like I'm a chart with symptoms. His eyes held mine. You are angry with him. Yes. But you touched him gently. That is usually how you touch people who are hurt. No, Hunter said. Just that. No flat. Certain. Old. The word entered the room and made everything colder. Marcus looked between us and wisely said nothing. I should have left it alone. I did not. Who taught you otherwise? Hunter's face changed so slightly, anyone else might have missed it. A tightening near the eyes. A door closing before I had fully seen what was behind it. Get your water. Hunter. His name came out quieter than I meant it to. He turned away anyway. You asked earlier why the Balantis hate me. That stopped me. Marcus stiffened on the bed. Hunter walked to the window. Beyond the thick glass, armed men moved across the wet grounds like pieces in a war game. The answer is simple, he said. I was not supposed to survive long enough for them to hate me. No one spoke. He kept his back to us. The old families like their monsters with proper names. Sons raised under chandeliers. Boys taught which fork to use before they learn where to put a knife. Men who inherit blood and call it honor. His reflection in the glass looked carved out of the same black stone as the house. I came from streets they pretended not to own. The alleys where they sent boys to carry packages they did not want traced. Corners where children learned to run before they learned to read contracts. They used men like me until we became inconvenient. My throat tightened despite myself. He was not telling the story like a wound. He was telling it like weather. Like something that had happened, shaped the ground, and left no room for complaint. And you became inconvenient? I asked. His eyes met mine in the window's reflection. I became expensive. Marcus swallowed audibly. Hunter turned then. They laughed the first time I took a block, sent boys after me the second time. Men the third. By the fourth, they stopped laughing. There should have been bragging in it. There was none. Just history written with fists, bullets, and the kind of survival that did not leave much softness behind. So they hate you because you took what they thought belonged to them. They hate me because I proved it could be taken. The words settled under my skin. I wanted him to stay simple. I wanted him to remain the violent man who had dragged me out of my apartment and locked me behind his gates. Simple men were easier to resist. Hunter Narvelle was not simple. That was becoming the most dangerous thing about him. A phone rang from Anton's pocket as he returned with a bottle of water. He answered, listened, and his expression hardened. Hunter's gaze snapped to him. What? Anton looked at me first. That was how I knew it was bad. He held the phone out to Hunter, but Hunter did not take it. Say it! Anton's jaw flexed. Package at the front gate. Hunter's eyes went colder. From? Belanti. Marcus went pale. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. What package? Anton looked to Hunter again. Hunter gave a short nod. Anton opened the phone screen and turned it so we could see the image from the gate camera. A white box sat on the wet stone outside Hunter's fortified entrance, tied with a black ribbon. On top of it lay a card, thick cream paper, elegant enough to belong at a wedding. The camera zoomed in. One line had been written across it in black ink. For the stray dog and the nurse, WHO kept him breathing. My stomach turned. Hunter did not move. Not at first. Then every trace of pain left his face. What remained was worse. Stillness so complete it felt inhuman. Marcus whispered, Kayla. Hunter's eyes lifted from the screen to the windows, to the gates beyond them, to a world I could not see but suddenly knew was looking back. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. Bring it in. I grabbed his arm before I could think. His skin was hot beneath my fingers. No, that could be a bomb. Every man in the room looked at my hand on him. Hunter looked too, slowly. Then his gaze rose to mine. Something passed between us, sharp and impossible to name. Fear, defiance, a touch neither of us had planned. His voice dropped. Then take your hand off me, before you teach my enemies exactly where to aim. His warning should have made me let go. It did not. My fingers stayed locked around Hunter's arm, feeling the heat of his skin, the rigid strength beneath it, and the faint tremor he tried to bury under command. I am not worried about your enemies learning where to aim. I am worried about you ordering someone to carry a possible explosive through your front door. Hunter's eyes did not leave mine. You think fear makes you rational. No, I think common sense does. Common sense would have told you not to save me. The room went silent. That one landed too deep. I dropped my hand. Hunter looked at the place where I had touched him for half a second longer than he should have. Then the wall came back over his face, stone by stone. "Anton," he said. "Scan it outside. No one opens it near the house." Anton nodded and left. The relief moved through me. Hunter had listened. Not fully, not gently, but enough to alter the order. Silas would have noticed that. If he had been in the room, he would have noticed everything. Marcus sat on the bed with the blanket around him, face pale, eyes darting between Hunter and the security monitor. "This is because of me." I turned to him. "Do not make yourself the center of every disaster. It is exhausting." He flinched. Regret hit, but I did not take the words back. Not yet. He needed truth more than comfort. Hunter glanced at me, and for one awful second I thought he understood that too. A guard returned with a smaller evidence tray instead of the box. Whatever had been inside had been cleared as safe enough to bring in, but every man in the room still looked ready to shoot the air if it moved wrong. On the tray sat a black dog collar, heavy leather, silver buckle, a gold tag hanging from the center. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. The tag had 2 words engraved into it: Street King. Beside the collar lay a folded strip of white fabric. At first, I did not understand what I was seeing. Then Anton unfolded it with gloved hands. A nurse's cap. Old-fashioned. Almost theatrical. Across the front, written in black ink, "Good girl." My stomach turned. Marcus whispered my name. Hunter did not move. That was the frightening part. Not the anger. Not the threat. The absence of all motion. Like every living thing inside him had gone underground before something worse surfaced. I looked at the collar again. "They are trying to insult you. They are trying to measure what I will do about it." His voice was even. Too even. "And me?" His gaze shifted to the nurse's cap. "They are trying to find out if I care." No one breathed. The words were not romantic. They were not soft. They were not even kind. But they struck something in the room so hard that every guard understood the danger before I did. Hunter turned away from the tray. "Burn it." Anton hesitated. "The evidence? Photograph it, then burn it." Anton obeyed. Hunter walked out before anyone could stop him. I should have stayed with Marcus. I should have. Sat down, drunk the water Anton had brought, and let my brother's breathing prove he was alive. Instead, hours later, after Mara checked Marcus again and forced him to rest, after guards changed posts and the estate settled into a tense kind of night, I found myself standing barefoot in a hallway, listening to the sound of fists hitting leather. Thud, 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 measured. Violent, relentless. I followed it down a staircase I had not been invited to use. The lower level smelled of rubber mats, iron, and sweat. Low lights cut across an underground gym built less for fitness than punishment. Weapons lined one wall. A boxing bag swung from a chain in the center of the room. Hunter stood before it shirtless, driving his fists into it like the bag had a family name. His bandage was stained. "Are you insane?" He did not stop. "Go upstairs." "Are those the only 2 settings you have? Bleed and order?" His next punch landed hard enough to make the chain snap tight. "You should be with your brother." "He is sleeping. You should be sitting." "I do not sit when men threaten what is mine." The words hit before I could prepare for them. What is mine? My mouth went dry. "I am not yours." That stopped him. Not completely. His body still braced, fists wrapped, shoulders rising with controlled breaths, but his head turned, and the look he gave me was raw enough to make the space between us feel dangerous. "No," he said. "You are not." I should have been relieved. Instead, the way he admitted it made my chest ache. Then his wound leaked through the bandage in a dark line. I pointed. "Bench, now." He gave me a look that could have cut glass. I walked to the wall, found a clean towel, and lifted my chin. You can either sit down, or you can pass out and let me tell every armed man upstairs that the savage Don fainted because he has the medical judgment of a brick. For one long second I thought he might argue. Then he sat angrily, like the bench had betrayed him. I came closer and reached for the edge of the bandage. You tore it again. I noticed. Did you also notice you are not immortal? People keep testing it. My hands paused. He looked up at me, and for once, the hard answer did not hide everything. There was exhaustion behind his eyes. Fury, too. But under that, something older. Not sadness. Hunter did not wear sadness in any recognizable way. It looked more like a man standing guard over a wound he had never allowed to close. I cleaned around the torn stitches carefully. The room had gone too quiet. Every brush of gauze sounded louder than it should have. His skin tightened beneath my fingers, but he did not pull away. You can stop doing that. What? Pretending pain is obedience. His eyes stayed on my face. Pain is honest. No, pain is loud. That is not the same thing. His jaw flexed. I secured the fresh dressing. Slower than necessary because my hands had become too aware of the heat of him, the scars, the breath he kept controlled whenever my fingers moved too close to damage. Has anyone ever touched you without trying to hurt you or follow orders? The question escaped before I could soften it. Hunter's hand closed around the edge of the bench. For a moment, I thought he would shut down again. I do not remember. The answer hit me in the ribs. I looked at him. He looked away. Not because he was ashamed. Because he had given me something he had not meant to give. I do not know how to be gentle. The words were low, stripped bare, almost angry. My fingers stilled against the tape. Then learn. My voice quieter now. Before you touch me like I matter. His gaze came back to mine. The air changed, not softened, charged. Hunter stood slowly, and I should have stepped back. I did not. He was too close now, bare chest inches from me, the fresh bandage between us like a line neither of us should cross. You already matter. That is the problem. My breath caught. His hand lifted, stopped near my face, then curled into a fist before it could touch me. That restraint did more damage than contact would have. I could feel the heat of him. The danger. The impossible pull of a man who had been built by violence and was standing in front of me like tenderness was a language he wanted to learn but feared would kill him. He leaned closer. Not enough. Too much. My heart struck once, hard. Hunter's eyes dropped to my mouth. Then he stopped. His jaw tightened, like holding himself back, hurt. Worse than the wound. If I start wanting you, Kayla, he said, voice rough and almost ruined, I will not know how to want you halfway. Chapter 6. The most dangerous thing Hunter Narvelle had done was not drag me out of my apartment. It was stop himself from touching me. I woke with that restraint still under my skin. Not his hands, not his mouth. The absence of both. Morning bled pale and cold through the thick glass of the guest room, turning the walls gray and the locked door into the first thing my eyes found. For a second, I lay still beneath sheets that smelled too clean and too expensive, listening for the sound of footsteps outside. I had slept. Somehow, after bullets, blood, my brother's bruised face, Belanti threats, and Hunter standing in that underground gym with his body torn open and his eyes on my mouth like wanting me, was a war he had not planned to fight. If I start wanting you, Kayla, I will not know how to want you halfway. The words had followed me upstairs. They had sat beside my bed. They had waited until I closed my eyes and then leaned close enough to breathe against my throat. I threw the covers back. No, I whispered to the empty room. No to the memory. No to the heat that climbed my neck when I thought about the way he had stopped himself. No to the part of me that had wanted him not to. Hunter was dangerous, not beautifully wounded. Not secretly safe, dangerous. He had locked doors, issued orders, moved men like weapons, and dragged me into a world where my brother could disappear between one phone call and the next. Whatever had happened in that gym was fear wearing a prettier mask. That was all. I washed my face in cold water, borrowed clothes someone had left folded on the dresser, and went to check on Marcus before my thoughts could betray me again. The guard outside my door straightened when I stepped into the hall. I need to see my brother. He touched the earpiece at his ear. I'll notify. No. I kept walking. You can notify whoever you want while you follow me. To his credit, he did not grab me. Maybe Hunter had warned them. Maybe the men in this house had started to understand that I was more likely to cooperate when no one tried to herd me like livestock. Marcus was in a room 2 doors down, sitting upright against pillows with a bandage over one eyebrow and a tray of untouched breakfast on his lap. His face changed when he saw me. Relief first. Then guilt. Always guilt. Kay. Do not sound happy to see me unless you ate something. He looked at the tray. I wasn't hungry. You have a possible concussion. Your hunger is not in charge. I crossed the room, lifted the lid off the plate, and found eggs, toast, fruit, and coffee. Of course, Hunter's prison came with better breakfast than my actual apartment. Marcus gave me a weak look. You're mad. I am tired of being mad. Eat. He picked up a piece of toast like it might explode. I checked his pupils, asked him the date, made him follow my finger, and watched the way he tried not to wince when he shifted. You're hurting. I deserve it. That is not how bodies work. His eyes filled, and I looked away before I softened too fast. Kayla, I really thought I could fix things. I know. I saw you falling asleep in your car after double shifts. I saw the notices. I saw you pretending the grocery money stretched. My throat tightened. Marcus! I wanted one thing to be lighter because of me. I sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to touch him yet. Then get a job. Wash dishes, sweep floors, ask for help before men with black stone rings break your door. He flinched. Good, not because I wanted to hurt him, because shame was useless unless it taught him where the edge was. A knock came once before the door opened. Anton stood there, his large frame filling the doorway. Miss Thompson. The formal address still sounded ridiculous in a house where I had arrived barefoot and covered in blood. What? His expression was carefully blank. Hunter wants you downstairs. Hunter can want many things. Anton did not smile, but something near his eyes almost moved. This one involves your brother. Marcus went rigid. I stood immediately. What happened? Anton stepped aside. You should see it. The estate was awake, in a way that made my skin tighten. Men moved faster now. Not panicked. Worse. Focused. The same focused energy I had seen at the clinic when the locks clicked shut. Something had changed. Anton led me to a room off the main hall that looked less like an office, and more like a command center disguised by expensive wood. Security feeds covered one wall. Screens showed gate angles, hallways, exterior roads, garage bays. Hunter stood in the center of it all, wearing black trousers and an open-collared shirt that did not hide the fresh bandage beneath. He looked like he had not slept. He also looked like sleep would not have dared touch him. Silas stood to his right. My steps slowed. I had not seen him since Hunter threatened him over me, but Silas looked unchanged. Controlled. Clean. Untouched by insult or fear. His gaze found me as I entered, measured me, dismissed nothing. Hunter turned. The room reacted to his attention before I did. You need to see this. One of the guards handed me a phone. Not mine. On the screen was a photo. Marcus. My brother stood near the east side of the estate grounds, beside a service gate I had not known existed. He wore the same clothes he had slept in, blanket gone, face half-turned like someone had called his name. The photo was grainy, but close enough to make my blood stop. A message sat beneath it. Tell the Street King his walls have windows. My fingers went numb. That was taken 10 minutes ago, Hunter said. I looked at him. Marcus is upstairs. He is. Then someone was inside the grounds. Or someone inside gave them access to the blind spot. The room became too quiet. Silas spoke first. Or the boy wandered where he should not have been. I turned on him. He was beaten last night. He can barely walk without wincing. Pain does not prevent stupidity. Careful. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Excuse me? I said, careful. Hunter's gaze moved between us, but he did not interrupt. Silas looked almost amused now. Your brother brought Belanti attention to this house. My brother is not the one who opened the gate. No one has proven a gate was opened. Hunter's voice cut through the room. Lock the estate. Men moved instantly. Doors on the monitors shifted. Guards doubled at entrances. Someone called out orders about phone sweeps, access codes, camera loops, perimeter teams. The house became a machine again, but this time I was inside the engine. My stomach twisted. Where is Marcus? I asked. Guarded. I want to see him. You will after the sweep. No. Now. His eyes hardened. Not while I do not know which hallway is clean. That is exactly what I mean. My voice rose before I could stop it. You keep calling it protection, but every time something happens, the walls close tighter around me. Hunter stepped closer. Because every time something happens, the threat gets closer to you. And your answer is always to take another choice. My answer is to keep bullets from finding you. I am not a wound you can pack with gauze and control. No, he said, low. You are the reason someone is testing my house. The words struck clean. Not accusation. Not exactly. But close enough. Silas watched us with that cold, patient stillness. Hunter realized how it sounded a second too late. I saw it in the smallest shift of his face. I stepped back anyway. Then maybe your house is not as safe as you think. A guard entered fast, holding a keycard sealed in a plastic bag. Found near the East Service corridor, he said. Silas reached for it. Which guard? The man answered. Nico, lower perimeter. Silas's mouth tightened. Bring him in. Too fast. The order came too easily, like he had been waiting for a name to place under the blade. Hunter looked at him. I give the orders. Silas inclined his head. Of course. But the breach is obvious. A lower guard panicked, took a payment, and got sloppy. I looked from Silas to the sealed keycard, then to the photo, then back to Silas. Something moved through the air as he stepped past me. A scent. Faint beneath cologne and clean fabric. Cedar. Smoke. Something sharp and cold. My body remembered before my mind did. The clinic. Rain on the floor. Blood on my gloves. The man near the door. Too clean, too calm. Watching exits instead of Hunter's face. My pulse turned slow and heavy. I looked at Silas Creed's smooth profile and felt the first piece of the nightmare slide into place. He smelled exactly like the man who had stood back while Hunter bled on my table. The realization did not arrive loudly. It slid under my ribs and turned everything cold. Silas moved toward the guard holding the key card, all controlled elegance and sharpened patience. No panic, no surprise, no urgency beyond the kind he wanted everyone to see. Cedar. Smoke. That clean, expensive bite beneath it. My fingers curled against my palms. At the clinic, I had been too busy fighting Hunter's blood to understand what my body had noticed. The man near the door had stood too still, too clean, watching exits instead of wounds. I had smelled that same scent beneath antiseptic and rain. Now it was here, on Silas, or near him. Maybe that meant nothing. Maybe half the men in Hunter's world wore expensive cologne and stood like knives waiting to be used. But Hunter had warned me not to trust them. And my pulse knew the truth before my courage did. Hunter! And may I have a moment, please? His eyes cut to me immediately. The room followed. I hated that. Hated being visible to men who measured weakness in seconds. Privately, Silas's gaze settled on my face. For the first time since he had entered my life, his composure changed. Not much. A faint narrowing of the eyes. Enough. Hunter noticed too, but his expression did not reveal what he made of it. Out, he ordered. No one moved. Then he looked at them. They moved. Silas was the last to leave. This is not the moment for private conversations. Hunter's voice went quiet. That was not a request. Silas held his stare for one beat too long before walking out. The door closed. The screens continued glowing across the wall. Marcus's photo remained frozen on one of them. My brother turned toward an unseen voice near a gate someone should not have reached. Hunter faced me. Say it. My mouth had gone dry. I think Silas was at the clinic. He came to the clinic after. No, I forced myself to hold his gaze. Before, or during, I do not know. I smelled the same cologne there. The man near the door. The clean one. He kept looking at the exits. Hunter's face did not change, but something behind it locked. You are sure? No. Honesty hurt. That is the problem. I am not sure. But I noticed it then, and I noticed it now, and the keycard. The keycard belonged to a lower guard. According to Silas. His eyes hardened. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Careful. The word hit me like a hand on my shoulder. Not enough to bruise. Enough to remind me where I stood. I stared at him. Are you warning me or protecting him? Silas came from the streets with me. And that makes him incapable of betrayal? It means you do not understand what you are accusing him of. I am not accusing him. I am telling you what I noticed. You want him guilty. I went still. Hunter's jaw tightened, but he did not take it back. The hurt arrived before the anger, which made me hate both of them. Why would I want that? Because then your fear has a name. Because then my house is rotten, and you can tell. Yourself leaving is the smart choice instead of the reckless one. My breath caught. He saw the wound too easily and cut too close with it. You think I need excuses to distrust this place? I was shot at in my apartment, locked in your clinic, dragged through your gates, and handed rules like survival is something you own. His eyes flared. You are alive because of those rules. I saved your life when I had every reason not to. Silence slammed between us. The words shook after they left me, but I did not call them back. Hunter looked at me like I had struck him somewhere his body had no scar to defend. Then his expression closed. Stay in your room until I clear the breach. No. This is not a debate. It never is with you. I turned and walked out before he could see my eyes burn. The hallway felt longer than it had before. Every guard looked like a stranger again. Every locked door seemed to know my name. I went to Marcus first. Because anger could wait, but fear never did. He was still guarded. Still alive. Still too pale. I touched his forehead, checked his pupils, asked him the same questions I had asked earlier. He answered, but his gaze kept moving to my face. What happened? Nothing. Kay. I said nothing. He looked down. That means everything. I almost laughed. It would have broken if I tried. So I left him with water, instructions, and a threat to personally haunt him if he slept too deeply. By the time I reached my room, my hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time. From the stupid, humiliating ache of being doubted by a man I had no right wanting to believe me. I stood at the window until dusk thickened against the glass. The estate moved beneath me, guards changing posts, cars circling the drive, cameras turning their black eyes toward the walls. Somewhere in this house, Hunter was tearing through loyalty like a wound, searching for infection. Maybe I was wrong about Silas. Maybe I was not. Either way, Hunter had chosen history over me. We had known each other for days. I was a nurse he had dragged into his war. Silas was the man who had survived his streets. Still, when the knock came, my heart knew who it was before I opened the door. Hunter stood on the other side. No guards, no Silas, no command center glow behind him. Just Hunter, tired in a way he would never admit, one hand braced near the frame, his face cut with shadows. I did not say you could come in. I know. That stopped me more than an order would have. He waited. Actually waited. I stepped back because I hated myself a little. He entered and closed the door behind him, but he did not lock it. I noticed. So did he. I was wrong to say you wanted him guilty. The apology was so blunt it almost did not sound like one. Almost. I folded my arms. That all? His eyes moved over my face, not lazily, not possessively, carefully, like he was reading damage he had caused and did not know how to dress. I know what I owe you. I just do not know how to stand near it without reaching for a weapon. The words slipped beneath my anger and found the softest place to land. That is not an apology. No, at least you know. His mouth tightened. I am learning. I should have looked away. I did not. You cannot cut every hand reaching for you, Hunter. I can if I think it will leave. The honesty in that sentence left me quiet. I stepped closer before I decided to. I am still standing here. His gaze dropped to my mouth. The air shifted. Slowly this time. Dangerously. He did not grab me. Did not command. Did not close the distance like the world owed him my body just because he wanted it. He waited with violence leashed under his skin and hunger burning through every inch of restraint. Kayla, he said, and my name came out rough enough to ruin me. I should have said no. Instead, I said, if you touch me like a war, I stop you. His eyes lifted to mine. And if I stop, he asked, will you run? My heart beat once, hard. I do not know. Pain moved through his face, not weakness. Something sharper. Then he kissed me. Not gentle at first. Hunter kissed like a man who had learned the world by taking impact. His mouth met mine with hunger, heat, and a restraint that shook under the weight of itself. One hand found the wall beside my head. The other stayed fisted at his side, like touching me was something he did not trust himself to survive. I pressed my palm to his chest. He stopped immediately. The suddenness of it stole my breath. His mouth hovered over mine, his breathing uneven, eyes dark and furious with the effort it cost him. Slow, I whispered. He closed his eyes for half a second. Then he started again. Slower, not soft. Hunter did not know soft, but careful. Careful enough that my anger cracked, and something far more dangerous looked through. His mouth learned mine instead of conquering it. His hand rose, stopped near my jaw, then touched me with a restraint so fierce it felt like a vow he had not meant to make. My fingers tightened in his shirt. He made a low sound against my mouth, and heat ran through me so fast I forgot the guards, the gates, the photo, Silas, all of it. For one impossible moment, there was no war. Only the man who did not know how to be gentle trying anyway. Then every light in the room died. Hunter tore away from me. Darkness swallowed the house. A second later, the security alarms cut off mid-wail. Hunter's body changed instantly. The man who had kissed me vanished, and the savage dawn stepped into his skin. He moved in front of me before I could breathe. From somewhere beyond the door came shouting. Then, gunfire. Hunter reached back and caught my wrist, his voice low and lethal in the dark. Get behind me. Someone opened my house from the inside. Chapter 7. The first shot sounded closer than my own heartbeat. It cracked through the dark beyond Hunter's shoulder, sharp and violent, and every foolish thought I had ever had about safety died before it could take another breath. Hunter shoved me behind him so fast my back hit the wall. 1 second ago, his mouth had been on mine. Now he had a gun in his hand. I had not even seen him reach for it. The estate was black around us, the kind of black that did not belong in a house with cameras, guards, backup systems, and men paid to notice every shadow. The alarms had cut off mid-scream, not faded, not failed, silenced. That was worse. Hunter's hand closed around my wrist, hard enough to keep me anchored, not hard enough to hurt. In the hallway, men shouted over one another, boots striking marble, orders snapping through the darkness. Then, another shot. A scream. My stomach turned. Hunter! Quiet. His voice was low, but there was nothing soft in it now. Every inch of him had changed. The man who had kissed me like restraint was tearing him apart, had vanished so completely it felt like I had imagined him. In his place stood the man everyone feared, the savage Don. A shadow with a weapon and blood still beneath his bandage. Someone pounded on the door. "Boss!" Hunter did not move me aside. "Name!" "Anton." Only then did Hunter open the door. The hallway outside was lit by emergency strips along the floor, thin red lines cutting through smoke and moving bodies. Anton stood there with a gun in one hand and a flashlight in the other, face hard, eyes already scanning past us. "East Wing breach," Anton said. "Lower corridor. Cameras down from Gate 3 to Service Hall." Hunter's jaw tightened. "Marcus?" "Guarded. Get them both to the safe room." "No." Hunter turned his head just enough for me to see the edge of his profile. "Not now. I am not being locked away while—" He faced me then, and the look in his eyes stopped the words in my throat. Not anger, fear sharpened into command. "This is exactly when you do what I say." I obeyed. And I understood why. Anton took my arm, not roughly, but firmly. I looked at Hunter's side as we moved. Even in the weak red light, I saw the dark stain spreading beneath his shirt. "You are bleeding again." Hunter's eyes stayed on the hall. "Later. That wound does not care about later. Neither do bullets." Before I could answer, he turned away from me. That hurt. Stupidly. Wildly. As if this was a room, not a war. As if he had time to explain why his mouth had learned mine gently, and his back was now the last thing I might see before the house swallowed him. Anton pulled me into the corridor. "Move!" I moved. The hallway was chaos contained by training. Guards swept past us in pairs. One dragged a wounded man by the back of his jacket. Another pressed a hand to his shoulder, blood leaking between his fingers. Somewhere below us, glass shattered. The air smelled like smoke, hot metal, and the copper bite of fear. "Where is Marcus?" I asked. "Safe room." "Is he hurt?" "Not unless he makes himself stupid. That is not reassuring. He has experience." Anton almost looked at me. Almost. Then he pushed open a reinforced door hidden behind what I had thought was a decorative wall panel. Marcus was inside with 2 guards, pale, barefoot, and very much not calm. He lurched up when he saw me. "Kayla," I reached him before the door shut. "Sit down." I heard shots. I noticed. "What is happening?" "The house is under attack." His face drained. "Because of me." "No!" I grabbed his chin and forced him to look at me. "Do not make this useful for your guilt. Sit down, breathe, and do exactly what the armed people say for once in your life." His mouth trembled, but he nodded. The safe room was smaller than I expected. Steel walls behind dark paneling. A medical cabinet. Screens showing dead feeds. A bench bolted to one side. No windows. One heavy door with 3 locks. A beautiful coffin with better lighting. Anton stood at the entrance, listening to his earpiece. Then his head turned. "What?" I asked. He did not answer me. He spoke into the mic. "Repeat." The guard beside Marcus looked at him. Anton's expression changed. "Not much. Enough." My skin went cold. What happened? Stay here. No. His gaze snapped to mine. Miss Thompson, tell me what happened. A burst of static came through his earpiece loud enough for me to hear, then a voice, strained and distant. Boss is hit. Lower stairwell. Need cover. The room tilted. Marcus grabbed my wrist. Kayla. No. I was already moving. Anton blocked the door. Move. No. Hunter is bleeding. He is always bleeding. That is not funny. It was not meant to be. I tried to push past him. Useless. He was built like a wall and had the conscience of one when following orders. Listen to me, I said, forcing my voice low. If his wound opens fully, if he loses more blood, if he gets dizzy in a firefight, he dies. You can either let me bring supplies to your boss, or you can explain to him in whatever afterlife men like you believe in that you stopped the only medical professional in this room because you were very committed to being large. Marcus made a faint sound behind me that might have been horror. Anton stared at me. Another transmission crackled. Man down. South Hall. Need medic. That did it. Not because Anton cared about my argument. Because Hunter's men were bleeding too. His jaw flexed. You stay behind me. Fine. You do not run toward gunfire. I make no promises, that stupid. His eyes narrowed. I grabbed the emergency medical kit from the wall before he could reconsider. Marcus stood. Kayla. I looked back at him. He looked terrified. Young, bruised. My little brother, even when he had made grown man mistakes. Stay here. You always go. The words struck too deep to answer, so I left before they could pull me apart. The corridor outside the safe room was darker now. Smoke crawled along the ceiling, in thin gray layers. Anton moved in front of me with his weapon raised, and I followed with the medical kit clenched against my ribs. My feet slipped once. Blood. A smear of it across the floor. Not Hunter's, I told myself. Not unless I saw him. Not unless I knew. We turned into the South Hall and found a guard propped against the wall, one hand pressed to his thigh, blood pumping between his fingers. He was young, younger than I expected. His face had gone gray with shock. Leave him, Anton said. Mara will. No, I dropped beside the guard. Put pressure here. Kayla, I said pressure. Anton cursed under his breath but knelt and pressed where I showed him. The guard's eyes rolled toward me. Boss, not your job right now. Cutting through fabric. Your job is to stay conscious and not bleed out on this ugly floor. His mouth twitched weakly. It's Italian marble. Then bleed less. It stains. Anton's hand tightened over the wound. I wrapped the tourniquet high and tight, checked the time, then packed gauze around the injury. My hands knew what to do. Thank God my hands always knew what to do, because the rest of me was somewhere down the hall with a man I should not have cared about this much. A sound came from behind us. Anton turned. Too late. A man stepped out from the dark at the end of the corridor. Not one of Hunter's guards. I knew that before I saw the gun. His coat was wrong. His stance was wrong. His face was half covered, but his eyes were fixed on me. Not Anton, not the wounded guard. Me. Anton raised his weapon. The attacker fired first. The shot slammed Anton backward into the wall. I froze. The medical kit slipped from my bloody fingers. The stranger lifted his gun again, and this time there was nothing between us but smoke, marble, and the sound of my own breath stopping. He aimed straight at my chest. For one impossible second, I saw the end of my life with terrible clarity. Not memories, not prayers, just the black mouth of a gun, smoke curling through the corridor, Anton sliding down the wall, and my hands covered in another man's blood because I had done what I always did. I had left safety to save someone. The attacker's finger tightened. Then Hunter hit him from the side, like wrath given a body. The shot went wild. Marble exploded near my shoulder. I dropped hard, one arm over my head, breath punching out of me. The corridor filled with movement, grunts, the sickening crack of bodies striking walls. I did not look up at first. I could not. My ears rang too loudly. My brain kept replaying the gun aimed at my chest. Then I heard Hunter. Not words, a sound, low, savage, not pain, fury. I lifted my head. Hunter had the attacker pinned against the wall with one forearm across his throat. Blood had soaked through Hunter's shirt at his side, but he did not seem to feel it. His face was not wild. That was the worst part. It was controlled. Cold. The attacker clawed at his arm, boots scraping against the floor. Hunter leaned in and said something I could not hear. Whatever it was made the man stop fighting for half a breath. Then Hunter struck him once, hard enough to send him collapsing to the floor. Not dead. Still breathing. But finished. I should have been relieved. Instead, I stared at Hunter and felt something inside me split. This was the man who had kissed me like he was afraid of breaking me. This was also the man standing over another body with no regret on his face. Hunter turned. The violence in him vanished from his expression so fast it almost scared me more than if it had stayed. His eyes found me on the floor. Kayla? I did not answer. He crossed the corridor in 3 strides and dropped in front of me. Not graceful. His wound would not allow that. He hit one knee harder than he should have, jaw tightening with pain, but his hands went to my face first. Not his wound. Not the attacker. Me. Where are you hit? I'm not. His hands moved down my arms, my shoulders, my sides, checking with a rough desperation that made it impossible to breathe. Hunter, I'm not hit. His gaze snapped back to mine. For the first time since I had met him, there was no command in his eyes. Only fear. Naked, furious, unforgivable fear. You left the safe room. There was a man bleeding. There was a war in my house. I heard you were hit. His hands stilled. The words had slipped out before I could armor them. His face changed, not softened. Hunter did not soften in ways that made sense. But something in him took the words like a wound and did not know where to put them. Anton groaned behind him. That snapped me back. I pushed at Hunter's chest. Move. Anton. Hunter stood and turned, but he stayed close enough that his body remained between me and the downed attacker. 2 guards rushed in then, weapons raised. One secured the stranger on the floor. The other went to Anton. No, I said, already crawling toward him. Pressure on the shoulder. Elevate if you can. He's conscious. Anton's face was gray, but his eyes opened when I pressed fresh gauze to the wound. You disobeyed. You got shot. We're all learning things. His mouth twitched, then tightened in pain. Hunter barked orders over me. Names, positions, corridors to clear, men to move. The house answered him, even half broken. Within minutes, the gunfire faded into distant shouts, then into the brutal quiet after violence, when everyone still living had to prove it by breathing too loud. Mara arrived and took over Anton with one look at my shaking hands. You, she said to me, sit. I'm fine. Everyone in this house lies badly. Hunter's hand closed around my elbow. I flinched before I could stop it. He let go immediately. That hurt worse. I did not mean, I started. His face shut down. You should not have seen that. I looked at the attacker being dragged away. Which part? All of it. That is not how this works anymore. His eyes came back to mine. I was still afraid. Of the house. Of Silas. Of the Balantis. Of Hunter, too, if I was honest enough to admit it. But I was also afraid for him. And that was the thing I did not know how to survive. A guard ran up, breathless. "Boss." Eastgate was opened manually. Hunter turned slowly. "By whom?" The guard swallowed. "Private access code." The corridor seemed to narrow around us. Hunter said nothing. The guard's voice dropped. "Silas Creed's code." No one moved. Even the wounded men seemed to understand that a different kind of blood had just entered the room. Hunter's expression did not change, but something terrible passed through him. Not shock, not rage, pain. He hit it too quickly. "Bring Silas," he said. They brought him to the main hall 10 minutes later, after the last attacker had been contained, and the estate had dragged itself back from the edge of collapse. Silas arrived immaculate. That was the first thing I noticed. Everyone else looked marked by the night. Blood on sleeves, smoke in hair, torn cuffs, sweat and fear and adrenaline. Silas looked inconvenienced. His eyes moved over Anton, over the guards, over me. Then Hunter. "You think I opened your gate?" Silas said. Hunter stood at the foot of the main staircase, one hand pressed to his side beneath his jacket. He had not let Mara touch him yet. Of course he had not. "I think your code did," Hunter replied. "Codes can be stolen." "From you?" A faint edge entered Silas's voice. "From anyone." I could feel every man in the hall listening. Silas's gaze flicked to me. "She has been whispering in your ear since she arrived." Hunter went still. Silas continued, calm as poison. "She smelt a scent, saw a shadow, got a feeling, and now your men look at me like I sold you to old blood. You are letting a frightened nurse turn your house against itself." My cheeks burned. Hunter's voice dropped. "Do not put your disloyalty on her." Silas's jaw tightened. "My loyalty is the reason I am saying this. She is making you hesitate. You never hesitated before." "No," Hunter said. "Before, men like you mistook brutality for strength." The silence shook. Silas stared at him. Hunter stepped closer. "Weakness is blaming a woman for a man's betrayal." For one moment, I thought Silas might strike him. Instead, he looked at me with something that chilled straight through my skin. Hatred. Then he bowed his head, just enough to look obedient, and said, "As you command." He walked away under guard. No one pretended that was the end of it. Later, in the quiet wreckage of Hunter's study, I made him sit. He did not argue this time. That frightened me. Mara had left supplies. I cleaned the reopened wound with hands that were steadier than my heart. Hunter watched the dark window, not me. He was my brother before I knew what that word was supposed to mean. He said suddenly. I paused. "Silas." "He pulled me out of an alley once. I was 15. Bleeding. Thought I was dead already." His voice was flat, but I heard the damage under it. "You trusted him." "I do not trust." "You did with him." His jaw flexed. That was answer enough. I taped the new bandage down carefully. "I'm sorry." He looked at me then, and the exhaustion in his eyes almost undid me. For what? For knowing what it feels like when someone you would bleed for becomes the reason you are bleeding. His hand lifted. This time he did not touch my face. He touched my wrist. Careful. So careful it made my throat ache. I let him. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then a sharp knock hit the door. Anton stood there, pale but upright, one arm bandaged, his expression carved into something grim. My heart lurched. "What?" Hunter asked. Anton looked at me first. "No." I knew before he said it. I ran. Past Hunter, past Anton, down the hall to Marcus's room. The bed was empty. The blanket lay half on the floor. And on the pillow, folded with cruel precision, was a white card. My hands shook as I picked it up. 3 words stared back at me. Come alone. Below them, one more line. Oh, your brother dies. Chapter 8. The note did not just threaten my brother, it took ownership of my fear. Come alone. O.R. Your brother dies. The words blurred once, then sharpened again, cruel and black against the white card. My hands had blood dried along the knuckles from men who were not Marcus. My mouth still remembered Hunter's almost gentle kiss. My wrist still remembered how carefully he had touched me in his study, like I was something he was terrified of damaging. None of that mattered now. Marcus was gone. The bed was empty. The room still smelled faintly of antiseptic and pain, but my brother's warmth had already left the sheets. One drawer was open. The glass of water beside the bed had tipped over, soaking into the carpet. The guard, who should have been outside the door, was nowhere in sight. I checked beneath the bed because panic made people stupid. Then the bathroom. Then the closet. Nothing. Kayla. Hunter's voice came from behind me. I folded the note in my fist before turning. He stood in the doorway with Anton at his shoulder, pale from blood loss, fury banked so hard behind his eyes that the room seemed smaller around him. Give me the card, he said. No. His gaze dropped to my closed hand. Kayla. No. Anton looked like he wanted to intervene and knew better. Hunter stepped into the room. This is not the time to fight me. That is funny, because every time something happens to someone I love, you say that right before you take another choice away from me. His jaw tightened. Someone took Marcus from inside my house. Yes. And you think hiding the note helps him? I think handing you the note means you lock me in a room while you decide what to do. His silence answered before his mouth could. I laughed once, broken and cold. There it is. I will not apologize for keeping you alive. I am not asking you to apologize. I am asking you to understand that alive and helpless are not the same thing. His eyes hardened. If the note says come alone, it is a trap. Of course it is. Then you are not going. The words hit exactly where I expected them to. Still, they hurt. Because part of me had wanted him to say something else. Something impossible. Something that made me feel less like a liability being managed. My brother's life had been reduced to strategy again. I pushed past Hunter before my face gave me away. He caught my arm. I looked down at his hand, then up at him. Let go. He did. Immediately. That small obedience nearly cracked me open. I walked out before it could. The hallway was chaos wrapped in silence. Men moved fast, opening doors, checking corners, speaking into earpieces. The estate had been attacked, bled, breached, and still it moved like a machine, because Hunter Narvelle's world knew how to survive violence. But it had not protected Marcus, not from this. Not from someone who knew exactly where to reach. I went back to my room with Hunter's men behind me, though no one touched me. The second I crossed the threshold, one of them tried to stay inside. I turned. Out. Miss Thompson. Out. He looked toward the hall, probably for Hunter. Hunter was not there. The guard stepped back. The door closed. I stood in the center of the room, breathing hard, the note crushed in one hand. My reflection in the dark window looked like someone I would have treated in the clinic and quietly worried about after she left. Pale, wild-eyed, too calm in the dangerous way. I opened the note again. There was a second line on the back I had not seen before. South Supply Warehouse. No Narvelle men. My knees weakened. I knew that place. Not personally, not well, but enough. St. Arlands used to order surplus supplies from a medical distributor near the South Industrial District before the company closed. I had signed for shipments there twice during supply shortages. Rows of old loading bays, broken security lights, no foot traffic after dark. A perfect place to disappear someone. I grabbed the first clean jacket I found from the dresser. Someone had brought clothes for me, soft and expensive, and chosen by no one who knew my life. I put on shoes too large for me and shoved the note into my pocket. Then I stopped. Hunter would come. If I told him, he would bring every man he owned, and whoever had Marcus would know before I got within a block. They would kill my brother just to prove they meant the threat. Hunter would call that risk. I would call it Marcus's body. My chest pulled tight. I went to the desk, found a pen, and wrote on the back of a medical instruction sheet Mara had left for Marcus. I am sorry. I have to save him. I almost wrote Hunter's name. I did not. That felt too much like trust. Or goodbye. The house had weak points. Every house did. Even fortresses. Especially fortresses. Because men who believed in walls forgot people still had to move through them. I had noticed a service staircase earlier when Anton led me from the safe room, narrow, unadorned, used by staff and guards. During the attack, one lower camera had been dead. Maybe repaired now. Maybe not. I did not give myself time to think longer. Thinking would turn into fear. Fear would turn into waiting. Waiting would get Marcus killed. I opened my door and stepped into the hallway. 2 guards turned. I need the bathroom. One frowned. There is one in your room. The shower is full of glass from the clothes they brought me. That made no sense. But men with guns did not always know what women's rooms contained, and exhaustion made lies easier to believe when spoken with irritation. The guard hesitated. I moved before he decided. Down the hall. Left. Past the dark painting. Past the alcove where the camera lens tilted toward the main staircase. I kept my pace angry, not sneaky. People questioned sneaking. They avoided anger. At the next corner, a shout came from the opposite hall. Code sweep in the West Wing! Both guards looked. I slipped through the service door. The stairwell was dim, concrete instead of marble, the air colder. My pulse hammered so loudly I was sure the cameras could hear it. I moved down 2 flights, one hand on the rail, every creak of my borrowed shoes sounding like confession. At the bottom, the exit door had an alarm panel beside it. Dead. Or disabled. A dangerous gift. I pushed through into the rear service yard. Cold air hit my face. For 1 second, I stood outside Hunter's walls and almost turned back. Almost. Then I saw Marcus's face in my mind, swollen and ashamed, whispering that he had tried to fix everything. I ran. The service road curved away from the estate toward a maintenance gate that had been opened during the attack and badly resecured. I squeezed through the gap, scraping my arm on metal, and kept going until the estate lights blurred behind me. I did not have my phone, no weapon, no plan good enough to deserve the name, only an address and a lifetime of going when someone I loved was bleeding. By the time I reached the South Industrial District, my lungs burned and my feet ached in shoes never meant for running. I paid a taxi driver with cash from the jacket pocket, then walked the last 4 blocks because I did not want a driver seeing where I went. The warehouse rose ahead in the dark, low and ugly, its sign half torn away. Southline Medical Supply. One loading bay stood open. A weak yellow light spilled across the concrete. I stepped inside. The smell hit first. Dust. Rust. Old cardboard. The faint sterile ghost of gauze and plastic packaging left to rot in a place once meant for healing. Shelves towered in rows. Crates sat stacked like walls. Somewhere deeper inside, metal scraped. Marcus? I called. My voice sounded too small. A muffled sound came from the left. I ran toward it. He was tied to a chair beneath a hanging light, face bruised, lips split open again, wrists bound behind him. Alive. Kayla, he rasped. I reached him and dropped to my knees, hands already checking him. Pulse. Pupils. bleeding, breathing. What did they do to you? You shouldn't have come. Do not start with me. I pulled at the rope around his wrists. Too tight, his eyes filled with panic. Kayla, listen to me. It's not. A slow clap echoed through the warehouse. Once. Twice. 3 times. I froze. Marcus closed his eyes like the sound had already killed us. A man stepped out from between the shelves. Smooth coat, polished shoes, calm face untouched by the filthy light. Silas Creed looked at me with quiet satisfaction. There she is, the nurse who keeps running toward blood. My hands stayed on the rope, binding Marcus's wrists, but my body went cold from the inside out. I had known. Somewhere beneath fear, beneath denial, beneath Hunter's refusal to believe it, I had known. The scent at the clinic. The gate code. The way Silas watched me like I was not a person, but an infection spreading through Hunter's house. Marcus struggled against the chair. Kayla, I told you to leave. Stop moving. Because, if I let my voice shake, we were both finished. You'll make the swelling worse. Silas walked closer, unhurried. His shoes made soft, precise sounds against the concrete. Not one speck of dust clung to him. Even here, in a dead warehouse surrounded by rusted shelves and abandoned medical crates, he looked untouched. That made me hate him more. You were right. His brows lifted slightly. About? You are the problem. A faint smile touched his mouth. Careful, Miss Thompson. Courage is only charming when the person holding power finds it useful. I stood slowly, keeping myself between him and Marcus as much as I could. You opened the gate. I opened many things. You helped them get into Hunter's house. Silas stopped beneath the hanging light. It threw shadows beneath his cheekbones and turned his eyes flat. I helped correct a mistake. Marcus's breathing hitched behind me. I kept my eyes on Silas. Hunter? Hunter was never supposed to leave your clinic alive. The words did not surprise me. They still struck hard enough to make my knees want to fold. Silas watched the impact with the calm pleasure of a man who enjoyed clean wounds more than messy ones. He should have died on that table. A savage ending for a savage man. Shot close, cut deeper, delivered to a clinic with one tired nurse and no real security. By dawn, the Balantis would have been grieving publicly and carving privately. My mouth went dry. You brought him to me. I allowed him to be brought where death would look like delay. No, Marcus whispered. Silas ignored him. I did not. I reached back and touched Marcus's knee once. Stay still. Stay quiet. Stay alive. Silas noticed the gesture. Always comforting someone, he murmured. Does it exhaust you? Yes. Especially when men keep bleeding, because other men are too cowardly to fight clean. His smile vanished. Good. There he was. Not polished, not untouchable. Just angry beneath the manners. You have no idea what I have fought for. You betrayed the man who called you brother. His eyes hardened. I built that throne with him, and hated that he sat on it. The silence after that was dangerous. Marcus made a small sound behind me. I should have stopped. I should have lowered my eyes and made myself harmless. But fear had burned too much out of me to leave room for wisdom. Silas stepped closer. I did not move. Hunter forgot what made him powerful. He started protecting neighborhoods like they were families, feeding men who should have paid, sparing boys who should have been taught fear. Then you came and suddenly the butcher hesitated over a nurse with blood on her shoes. I swallowed. The words should not have hurt. They did. He protected me because your people tried to kill me. He protected you because you became useful to his weakness. The warehouse seemed to breathe around us. I looked at Marcus's face. His left eye was swelling again. His lip had split open. One side of his shirt was damp near the ribs, not soaked, but enough. I turned back to Silas and forced my voice into the tone I used with violent patients who needed to feel in control. If you want Marcus alive as leverage, I need supplies. Silas's eyes narrowed. He is alive. For now. He could have a rib injury, possible concussion. His breathing is shallow. Marcus stared at me, confused for half a second. Then his face shifted. He understood. I was buying time. Silas looked toward one of the men standing near the shelves. Not Belanti, not yet. Hired muscle, maybe. Someone who did what he was paid to do and tried not to understand anything beyond that. Find her something? The man hesitated. Silas's voice cooled. Now. He brought a dusty first aid kit from a wall cabinet. It was old, but not empty. Gauze. Tape. Saline. Scissors too blunt to be a weapon unless desperation had hands. Luckily, desperation did. I knelt in front of Marcus and opened the kit with shaking fingers I forced to work. Look at me, I told him. I'm sorry, he whispered. Later. I should have never. Marcus. I pressed gauze to his lip harder than necessary. Later means you plan to be alive. His eyes filled. I used my body to shield my hands as I checked the kit. No scalpel. No blade. The scissors were small, metal, dull at the tips. I slipped them under my sleeve when I reached for tape. Silas's phone rang. Every part of me went still. He looked at the screen and smiled. Then he answered. Narvelle. My heart slammed against my ribs. Silas put the call on speaker. Hunter's voice came through, low and ruined in a way that told me he had already found my note. Where is she? Silas looked at me while he answered. Alive. For the moment. A sound came through the phone. Not a shout. Worse. A silence so violent it seemed to bend the air. Let me hear her, Hunter said. Silas nodded once. One of the men grabbed my arm and yanked me upright. The scissors pressed cold against my skin beneath my sleeve. I turned toward the phone. Hunter. His inhale cut through the speaker. Kayla. Just my name. No command. No accusation. And God help me, it almost broke me. I'm here. You are hurt? No. Silas sighed like he was bored. Touching. Truly. Hunter ignored him. Marcus? Alive. Stay that way. I let out a shaking breath that might have been a laugh if terror had not mangled it first. I'm trying. Try harder. My eyes burned. Silas watched me too closely. Then Hunter said, each word dragged over something raw. I am not done loving you badly yet. The warehouse disappeared. For one impossible second. There was no concrete under my feet, no rope around Marcus's wrists, no Silas with his clean coat and dead eyes, only Hunter's voice. Loving you. Badly. The confession came like him. Rough. Damaged. Unplanned. Almost angry at itself for existing. Silas's expression sharpened. He had wanted proof. Hunter had just handed it to him. There, Silas said softly. Do you hear yourself? Hunter's voice turned lethal. Run while you can. I did that for years beside you, Silas said. I am tired of running behind a street dog who forgot the bite that made him king. The call ended. Not by Hunter. By Silas. He slipped the phone into his pocket and looked at me with new interest. Not satisfaction now. Purpose. You did more damage than I thought. Before I could answer, engines sounded outside. Not one. Several. Headlights cut across the dirty warehouse windows. Doors opened. Expensive shoes struck wet pavement. Voices murmured, calm and low. Silas turned toward the entrance as if welcoming honored guests. Marcus whispered, Kayla. I stepped back toward him. 3 men entered in dark, tailored coats, polished and cruel enough that I knew before anyone said the name. Belanti. One of them was older, silver at the temples, with a black stone ring set in gold on his hand. The ring Marcus had described. His gaze moved over me like I was something already purchased. So, this is the nurse. Silas smiled faintly. This is Hunter Narvelle's weakness. The Belanti man looked at Marcus, then at me. Let us see how much she is worth. My hand closed around the hidden scissors. Silas followed the movement with his eyes, then smiled wider. Kill the brother first, he said. She should learn what happens when women make savage men weak. Chapter 9. I stepped in front of my brother before fear could ask permission. The Belanti man's gun lifted. Marcus made a broken sound behind me, half my name, half prayer, but I did not move. My knees wanted to fold. My lungs wanted to stop. Every smart instinct screamed at me to get down, to survive, to stop putting my body between danger and the people I loved. But I had been doing that my whole life. I was very good at it. Move, Silas said. I kept the dull scissors hidden against my sleeve and looked at the older Belanti with the black stone ring. If you kill him, you lose leverage. The Belanti man smiled like I had amused him at dinner. Little nurse, you are the leverage. Then you do not need him dead. No, Silas said from behind him. She needs him dead. Consequences educate faster than threats. Marcus strained against the chair. Kayla, please, stop talking, I said without looking back. I could not look back. If I saw his face, I might break. The Belanti man tilted his head. You protect him even now. He is my brother. And Hunter Narvelle is what? The question struck too close to the wound Hunter had opened through a speakerphone. I am not done loving you badly yet. I forced my face still. A man you are all very afraid of, for people who keep calling him a dog. The smile vanished from the Belanti's mouth. Good. Let pride be useful for once. Silas's eyes sharpened. Brave until the end. No, just tired. His brows drew together. I used the second of confusion to move. I dropped hard, twisted toward Marcus, and dragged the scissors from my sleeve. The Belanti gunman cursed. A hand grabbed my shoulder, but I drove my elbow back into something solid and cut blindly at the rope around Marcus's wrist. The scissors barely bit. Too dull. Too slow. Marcus pulled against the chair, panic making him clumsy. Kayla! Hold still! A gun cocked behind my head. Everything stopped. Silas's voice came soft and cold. Enough! My hand froze against Marcus's bindings. The Belanti man with the ring stepped closer. I saw the polished toe of his shoe near my knee, absurdly clean against the dusty concrete. You have spirit. That is unfortunate. Spirited women make men reckless. I looked up at him. No. Cowardly men blame women for the choices they were already too weak to own. His face hardened. The blow came fast. Not from the Belanti. From one of his men. Pain burst across my cheek, bright and sharp. I hit the floor on one hand and tasted blood. Marcus shouted my name. Silas did nothing. For one terrifying, humiliating second, the warehouse tilted around me. The hanging light swung overhead. Dust moved through its glow like ash. My cheek throbbed. My palm scraped concrete. Then engines roared outside. Not one. Many. Every head turned. The sound came like thunder rolling low against the warehouse walls. Tires screamed over wet pavement. Doors slammed. Men shouted, not in panic this time. In answer, the Belanti man's expression changed. Silas went still. I pushed myself up on one elbow, blood warm at the corner of my mouth. The first shot blew the lock off the side entrance. The second shattered the light above the far loading bay. Darkness lurched through the warehouse. Marcus shouted as glass rained somewhere behind us. I crawled toward him, but a hand caught the back of my jacket and yanked me upright. Silas. His arm locked across my chest, dragging me against him like a shield. "Do not be stupid," he hissed near my ear. Too late. The main doors burst open. Hunter Narvelle walked in through smoke, rain, and ruined light, like death had finally remembered his address. He should not have been standing. He had been shot, stabbed, restitched, torn open again. He should have been in bed beneath Mara's furious orders, not moving through a warehouse with a gun in one hand and murder carved into every line of his face. But there he was, black coat open, bandage hidden beneath dark fabric, eyes fixed on me. Not Silas, not Belanti, me. For half a second, the world narrowed to that look, and I understood with a kind of terror that felt almost holy. Hunter had not come to negotiate. He had come because someone had touched what he loved badly and left it breathing long enough for him to arrive. His men filled the entrance behind him. Anton was there, pale and bandaged but upright, weapons steady in one hand. Others poured in through side doors and broken loading bays. Not just the polished guards from the estate. Rougher men, too, street men, older men, young men with hard faces and worn coats. Men who looked like they had crawled out of the same alleys Hunter had survived, and brought their loyalty with them like loaded guns. Silas's grip tightened around me. Hunter's gaze finally moved to him. "Take your hands off her." The words were quiet. The warehouse heard them anyway. Silas pressed something cold against my side. A gun. Hunter's eyes dropped to it, then lifted. No flinch, no panic. That frightened me more than panic would have. The Belanti man with the ring stepped forward, gathering his dignity around him like armor. "Narvelle!" Hunter did not look at him. "You came into my city." The Belanti's mouth curled. "Your city? Old blood owned these streets before your mother learned the price of bread." A few men behind him laughed. No one behind Hunter did. Hunter's voice stayed flat. "Old blood should have guarded them better." The Belanti's face tightened. "You are outnumbered." Anton gave a low, humorless laugh. From the shadowed aisles between the shelves, more men appeared. Not Belanti. Hunters. Everywhere. Above on the catwalk. Near the rear loading docks. Behind the stacks of old medical crates. Men I had not heard enter. Men already aiming before the Belantis realized the warehouse was no longer theirs. Silas's breathing changed against my ear. For the first time, his control slipped. Hunter took one step forward. Silas pressed the gun harder into my ribs. "Stop!" Hunter stopped. The obedience cost him. I saw it in his jaw, in the brutal stillness of his body. Silas noticed too, and some ugly satisfaction returned to his voice. "There he is. The great Hunter Narvelle, stopped by a nurse." Hunter's eyes did not leave mine. "Kayla." My name was not a command this time. It was an anchor. "I'm okay." I lied. Blood slid from my split lip. His expression turned terrifying. Silas laughed under his breath. "Look at you. This is what I told them. She made you weak." "No." The word moved through the room like a blade being drawn. Silas shifted. "Then prove it." He raised his voice, turning to the men behind Hunter, the rough ones, the ones whose faces carried history. "You all know what he used to be. You know what built this empire. Not mercy, not nurses, not softness. Blood. Fear. Teeth." His arm tightened around me. He forgot. I did not. No one moved. Silas's voice sharpened. "Stand with me. and the Balantis will honor every territory you keep. Stand with him, and you die for a man who now hesitates over one woman." The silence stretched. Then Anton stepped forward. Bandaged, pale, unshaken. "I bled for him when no one knew your name." Another man near the catwalk spoke. "He kept my brother out of Balanti chains." A third said from the rear doors, "He fed our block when old blood burned the market." One by one, guns shifted, not toward Hunter, towards Silas. His body went rigid against mine. Hunter looked at the man who had once been his brother, and his voice came quiet enough to break something. "You thought fear was loyalty, because fear was all you ever gave." Silas did not breathe. Neither did I. His arm stayed locked across my chest, the gun pressed so tightly to my ribs I could feel the shape of it through my clothes. But something in him had changed. The certainty was gone. The polished calm had cracked, and beneath it was something uglier than hatred. Panic. Hunter saw it too. "Let her go." Silas's laugh came out thin. "Still giving orders like this ends with you on a throne." "No." Hunter took one measured step closer. "It ends with you alive only if you take your hands off her." The Balanti man with the ring made a sharp sound of disgust. "You brought an army for one nurse." Hunter's eyes moved to him at last. "And God," the room felt it. "You brought old blood into a warehouse. I brought the streets you forgot to fear." Men shifted in the shadows. The Balanti's face tightened. "You are still a dog," he spat. Hunter's mouth did not move. "Old blood still bleeds." Everything happened fast after that. Not cleanly. Not beautifully. Violence never was. A Balanti guard moved first. Hunter's men answered. A shot cracked, then another. I screamed as Silas yanked me backward, dragging me behind a stack of medical crates. Marcus shouted my name. The warehouse erupted into movement, shadows breaking apart, men colliding, weapons flashing under the broken light. Silas shoved me hard against a metal shelf. Pain shot through my shoulder. "Do you see what you did?" he hissed. "You made him weak enough to come." "No," I gasped. "You made him strong enough to be loved." His hand flew. I saw the blow coming and twisted. It glanced off my cheek instead of landing clean. Pain burst hot along my face, but I used the movement to drive the dull scissors into his forearm. Not deep. Enough. Silas cursed and released me. I ran. Not far. Not free. A Balanti man stepped into my path, but before he could reach me, Anton came out of the smoke and hit him with the brutal efficiency of a wounded man who had no patience left for staying down. "Move!" Anton barked. "Marcus! I have him!" I looked past him and saw two of Hunter's men cutting Marcus loose. My brother sagged forward, alive, terrified, but breathing. Relief hit so hard, my knees nearly failed. Then Hunter appeared through the chaos. He was not running. He was advancing. That was worse. Every step looked controlled, but I could see the cost in his body, the stiffness in his side, the blood darkening beneath his coat, the pallor beneath the bruises. He had torn himself apart getting to me, and still he moved like the entire warehouse had no right to exist between us. Silas saw him coming. He lunged for a fallen gun. Hunter reached him first. The impact drove Silas back against a crate. The sound of it made my stomach turn, but Hunter did not lose himself. That was what terrified me most. He could have. Everyone in that room expected him to. Instead, he held Silas there by the front of his coat. "Say it." Silas's lip curled. "Say what?" Hunter pulled something, force from inside his coat, and threw it onto the concrete between them. A phone. Then a stack of folded papers sealed in plastic. Anton's voice came from behind me. Payments from Belanti accounts. Gate logs. Messages arranging the clinic route. He sold the assassination window, boss. The warehouse seemed to freeze around those words. Assassination window. Clinic route. Silas's face went hollow for half a second. Then he smiled. You were supposed to die there, he said, bleeding under cheap lights while your empire woke up leaderless. The confession landed like a gunshot. Hunter did not flinch. I did. Because I remembered the clinic. His blood under my nails. His hand around my wrist. Do not trust them. He had known betrayal was close. Just not how close. You brought me to her. Silas's eyes cut to me. I brought you to death. She was supposed to be too tired to save you. My throat closed. Hunter's hand tightened in Silas's coat. She saved me anyway. Yes, Silas said, suddenly furious. And look at you now, bleeding over her, stopping for her, begging with your eyes like a boy in an alley waiting for someone to choose him. The words hit Hunter somewhere deep. I saw it. So did Silas. But Hunter did not break. He leaned in close enough that only those near them could hear. She did not make me weak. She gave me something worth controlling myself for. Silas's expression faltered. Then Hunter released him. That was the real punishment. Not mercy. Dismissal. Take him. 2 men seized Silas before he could move. He fought then, wild and ugly, all polish gone. Hunter watched without satisfaction as they dragged him away. The Belanti man with the ring tried to retreat. Hunter turned his head. Men blocked every exit. The Belanti lifted his chin. This is not finished. No, but tonight is. His men took them too. No speeches, no gore, no theater, just power closing its hand. When the warehouse finally went quiet, my body remembered it had been holding itself upright on fear alone. I swayed. Hunter was there before I fell. His hands caught my face, then stopped. They were shaking. Not a little. Not hidden. The savage Don, the man who had walked through gunfire like pain was an inconvenience, touched my cheeks with trembling hands, and looked at me like the whole world had narrowed to whether I was still breathing. Where are you hurt? I'm not. His eyes moved over my split lip, my cheek, my scraped hands. Do not lie to me. I'm not badly hurt. That is not the same answer. His voice broke on the last word. Barely. Enough. I reached up and covered one of his shaking hands with mine. His skin was cold. Hunter! His eyes closed for half a second, like my saying his name hurt. Then he opened them again, and the fear in them undid me. I took his hand and pressed it flat over my heart. There, I whispered. Feel it. I'm alive. His breath left him hard. Behind us, Marcus was crying quietly while Anton helped him stand. Kayla, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I turned toward him, but Hunter did not release me. He only shifted with me, one hand still at my back, as if letting go required strength he had already spent. Marcus stumbled closer. I did this. All of it. No, my voice rough. You made a stupid choice. They made evil ones. Do not confuse the two. Hunter looked at Marcus then. For a second, my brother went still beneath the weight of him. You will live, Hunter said, and you will spend the rest of your life making sure your sister never pays for your fear again. Marcus nodded, broken. I will. Later, outside the warehouse, rain had started again. Soft this time. Hunter's men moved around us, clearing bodies, securing weapons, carrying the wounded. Mara appeared from somewhere with a coat and medical fury in her eyes. Anton hovered near Marcus. The city smelled like wet concrete and endings that had not fully ended. Hunter stood in front of me beneath the warehouse awning. Blood soaked one side of his shirt. I reached for him automatically. He caught my wrist. Not to stop me, to hold on. I love you badly. The words came out raw, uneven, almost angry. I want to put walls around you and call it safety. I want to keep every door locked if it means no one reaches you. I do not know how to love without turning protection into a cage." My throat tightened. This was not pretty. It was better. It was honest. Love is not a cage. His jaw worked once. "Then teach me the difference." Rain slipped from the awning behind him. Somewhere nearby, Marcus was safe. Silas was gone. The Balantas had been dragged from the warehouse, but the war they carried was not dead. And Hunter Narvelle, savage don of a city that feared his name, stood in front of me looking more terrified of my answer than he had looked of any gun. "If you want me," I whispered, "you have to ask. Not take, not order. Ask." His hand tightened around mine. I saw the fight in him, the old instinct, the command rising and being strangled before it reached his mouth. Then Hunter lowered his voice. Not his head, not his pride. Just the weapon he had made of both. "Stay with me, Kayla, not as my prisoner, not as my debt, as the woman I love." Chapter 10. The first time Hunter Narvelle let me walk out of his house, every man at the gate looked like they expected him to change his mind. I did too. That was the worst part. Not the black car waiting outside. Not the guards positioned along the wet drive. Not the way the estate still looked bruised from the attack. With fresh repairs on the east corridor and new cameras staring from beneath the roofline like unblinking eyes. It was the silence behind me. The absence of an order. Hunter stood at the top of the front steps in a black coat, one hand tucked into his pocket, the other hanging loose at his side. Mara had threatened him so thoroughly after the warehouse that even the savage Don had finally allowed proper treatment. He still looked pale beneath the hard planes of his face, but he was upright. Men like Hunter did not rest. They negotiated with pain until pain learned to wait. "You can still say it," I told him. His eyes found mine. "Say what?" "That I am not leaving." One of the guards near the car went very still. Hunter noticed him without looking away from me. "You are leaving." That sounded painful. It was. The honesty slipped beneath my ribs before I could guard against it. 2 weeks had passed since the warehouse. 2 weeks since Silas Creed had been dragged out of Hunter's life like a blade pulled from flesh. No one told me exactly where Silas was now. I did not ask, because I was learning there were some answers that did not make a person safer. The Balantes had retreated after losing men, leverage, and whatever illusion they had carried about Hunter standing alone. But retreat was not surrender. Even I knew that now. Hunter's empire had shifted in the aftermath. Men were questioned. Codes were changed. Loyalties were tested in rooms I was not invited into. Anton walked the halls with one arm bandaged and a look that made younger guards straighten before he spoke. Mara came and went like a storm with a medical license. Marcus remained under watch, not as a prisoner, but close enough to consequences that he could finally feel their weight. And me? I had slept in Hunter's house. He had not locked the door once. That should have been enough. It was not. Because safety that required me to disappear did not feel like love. It felt like becoming another room inside his fortress. So I was going back to the clinic. Hunter hated it. He had not said so in those words, but the whole house knew. The guards knew. Mara knew. Anton definitely knew, because he had avoided eye contact for 20 minutes after I announced it at breakfast. Hunter had only gone quiet. That was how I knew the decision hurt. Now he came down the steps slowly, stopping one pace in front of me, close enough that I could see the fresh line of healing near his mouth. Far enough that he was still giving me space on purpose. That, too, was new. I added security to St. Arlan's. My eyebrows rose. Did you? Cameras. Reinforced back entrance. Panic switches. Backup generator. 2 exits, cleared and monitored. Hunter! Discreet protection on the block. Not inside. I folded my arms. You changed my workplace. I made it harder to turn into a crime scene. Without asking me. His jaw tightened. The instinct. The command. The man who saw danger and reached for control before language. Then he stopped. I watched it happen. I watched him take the order before it left his mouth and force it down like bitter medicine. You are right. The guards looked like the ground had opened. I almost smiled. Almost. Hunter did not. I should have asked. He continued, I am asking now if you will accept the changes. My chest tightened in a way I did not know how to fight. It was not polished, not romantic in the easy way. No flowers, no pretty speech, no grand public surrender. Just a brutal man standing in front of his own nature and refusing to let it win. I'll inspect them myself. You should. And if I hate something, it goes. His face tightened again. Then he nodded. It goes. I had to look away. A person could survive violence with less courage than it took to stand there, while Hunter Narvelle learned how not to own what he loved. Marcus waited in the car, looking smaller than he used to and older than he had any right to. The bruises on his face had yellowed at the edges. Shame still sat on him, but it had started to look less theatrical and more useful. Hunter had arranged work for him. Real work. Hard work. Inventory at one of the legitimate warehouses, under Anton's supervision, with repayment taken from each check and a curfew that Marcus had not complained about after Anton explained it with one stare. I had not rescued him from it. That might have been the hardest thing I had done. My brother opened the car door when I approached. You okay? I looked back at Hunter. Still standing on the steps like letting me leave was a wound he intended to survive out of spite. No, I said honestly, but I'm going. Marcus nodded. I start at the warehouse tomorrow. Anton said if I'm late he'll make me unload trucks with one hand. I glanced at him. Can he do that? Marcus swallowed. I'm not trying to find out. Good. Progress. The drive back into the city felt strange. The world outside Hunter's walls had kept moving without me. Coffee shops opened. Buses sighed at corners. A woman argued into her phone outside a laundromat. A man walked a tiny dog in a sweater. Normal life looked almost offensive after surviving a war inside hidden rooms and abandoned warehouses. St. Orleans appeared at the end of the block, its sign glowing in the morning gray. My throat tightened. The last time I had walked out of that clinic, Hunter's blood had been under my nails, his warning in my ear, and my life already burning behind me. Now the back door had a new camera, the lock was reinforced, the alley had better lighting. There was no black SUV parked in front, but I knew Hunter's men were somewhere nearby. I felt them the way you felt weather before it broke. Still, when I stepped inside, the clinic smelled like antiseptic, coffee, and clean gauze. Not fear, not blood, not yet. Dr. Havel gave me one look from the nurses station and said, "You look like hell." I missed you too. He handed me a chart. Light duty, no arguments. I do not care how terrifying your new friends are. They are not my friends. No friends bring soup. Those men installed bulletproof glass in my back office before breakfast. I paused. Bulletproof glass? He looked at me over his glasses. You did not know? Hunter Narvelle, I thought, with a slow breath. Learning, not cured. I should have been angry. I was. A little. But beneath it, something warmer moved. Something I did not fully trust, because it felt too much like being cared for by a man who did not yet know where care ended and control began. The first half of my shift was quiet. Too quiet. I restocked trauma packs, checked expiration dates, changed bandage trays, took vitals on a teenager with a sprained wrist and an old woman who called me sweetheart and told me I looked like I needed broth. Every ordinary task stitched me back into myself, one small motion at a time. By evening, Marcus had texted from his new phone. At warehouse. On time. Anton is scary. I'm okay. For the first time in years, I did not leave work early to fix him. I typed back, good, stay okay. Then I put the phone down. My hands trembled afterward. Not because I was afraid. Because not saving him from every consequence felt like betrayal, even when I knew it was love. The clinic emptied near midnight. Rain began again, softer than the storm that had brought Hunter to my table. I stood alone in the trauma bay, staring at the clean exam table, and understood something I had been too busy surviving to admit. I had built my whole life around being needed. Needed by Marcus. Needed by patients. Needed by strangers bleeding through their coats. If I was useful, people stayed long enough to need me again. Hunter wanted me when I was not stitching him closed. That terrified me more than gunfire. The back door opened. I turned so fast my hand knocked a tray of gauze onto the floor. Hunter stood in the doorway. No blood, no men dragging him, no weapon in his hand. Just Hunter. Dark coat damp from the rain, eyes on me like he had crossed the city for one reason, and was trying very hard not to turn that reason into an order. My voice came out unsteady. What are you doing here? He stepped inside slowly. I wanted to see you, he said, and I did not want to invent a wound to make you touch me. For a second, I just stared at him. Then, against every reasonable instinct I had left, I laughed, not loudly, not easily. It came out cracked and surprised, like something rusty opening after years of being locked. Hunter's face changed. Barely. But I saw it. That little shift around his eyes, the almost unbelieving stillness. As if my laughter was a thing he had not expected to survive hearing. You know, bending to pick up the gauze I had knocked down. Most men just text. I considered that. And? I did not like waiting. At least you're honest. I am trying. That word did something to me. Trying. From Hunter, it was not small. It was not casual. This was a man who had built his life on force, instinct, survival, and command. Trying meant he had found the edge of himself and chosen not to pretend it was the end of the world. I tossed the fallen gauze into the trash and leaned back against the counter. The clinic felt different with him standing inside it now. The first time he had been bleeding on my table while armed men watched the door. Tonight he stood upright beneath the fluorescent lights, rain darkening the shoulders of his coat, hands empty at his sides. No blood, no orders, no walls, just him, and somehow that felt more dangerous. Where are your men? I asked. Outside. Not inside. I looked at him. He understood the distinction mattered. They will not come in unless you ask. Or unless you decide I need saving. His jaw tightened once, then released. Or unless you ask. The correction landed quietly. I crossed my arms because I needed something between us, even if it was only myself. What do you want, Hunter? His gaze moved over my face, taking in every guarded inch of me. The wrong answer, he said, or the honest one. Try the honest one. We can insult the wrong one after. A faint roughness touched his mouth. Almost a smile. Almost pain. I want to take you home. There it was. The old instinct wrapped in softer language. My chest tightened, but I did not look away. Is that an order? No. The answer came fast, too fast. Then he stopped, as if he had heard himself and knew quick obedience was not the same as understanding. No, he said again, slower. It is me asking badly. My throat worked. He took one step closer, then stopped before the distance became pressure. I want you at the estate because I sleep better when I know where you are, he said. I want you away from windows that shatter and doors that open to men with guns. I want guards close enough to reach you before danger does." His voice lowered, and I know how that sounds. Like a cage. Yes. You still want it. Yes. The honesty hurt. So did the fact that he did not hide from it. But I will not make it one. If you come with me, you come because you choose to. If you leave in the morning, I let you leave. If you work nights, I hate it and do not stop you. If I cross the line, you tell me, and I step back. I swallowed hard. Can you do that? His eyes held mine. I do not know, but I will learn faster than any man who wants to keep you has a right to. My eyes burned before I could stop them. I hated that. A little. The tears. The softness. The way my body wanted to believe him before my fear had finished reading the contract. You don't get to make me smaller so you can feel safe. Something fierce and immediate moved over his face. No, the word was quiet but absolute. I do not want you smaller. He looked around the clinic, at the trauma table, the stocked shelves, the clean instruments, the place where I had been myself long before he had crashed through my life bleeding. I want to be worthy of the space you take. That almost broke me. Not because it was perfect. Because it was not. Because I could hear how hard he had worked to make the words honest instead of pretty. I pushed away from the counter and walked to him. He went still. Hunter Narvelle, who had walked into gunfire, who had faced old blood mafia men without flinching, went still because I stepped close enough to touch him. I reached for the edge of his coat. His eyes dropped to my hand. "May I?" I asked. A breath moved through him, uneven and quiet. Yes. I opened his coat carefully, then unbuttoned just enough of his shirt to see the bandage beneath. Clean. Fresh. No blood. "You are healing." Mara threatened to sedate me if I did not. Good woman? A tyrant. I like her. You would. My fingers moved from the bandage to the scar near his ribs. The old one. The scar that had caught my attention days ago, before I understood that Hunter's body was a map of every lesson the world had carved into him without permission. He did not stop me. He did not even breathe. I touched it lightly, just enough to feel the raised line beneath my fingertips. This one means you survived. His hand came up and covered mine. Not trapping. Holding. His palm was warm, large, steady now. No. I looked up. His eyes were on mine, and there was no armor left in them that I could name. Still dangerous. Still Hunter. But open in a way that felt more intimate than any kiss. This one means I found my way to you. My heart hurt. I did not know love could feel like that. Not soft and easy. Not like being swept off my feet. More like standing on the edge of everything I had been afraid to want, and realizing the ground might hold if I stepped carefully. I love you. I closed my eyes. The words were simple this time. No badly, no warning, no wound wrapped around them. Just love. When I opened my eyes, he was waiting. Not reaching, not taking. Waiting like my answer mattered more than his hunger. I love you too, I whispered. His face changed. It was not a smile. It was devastation surviving itself. I placed my other hand on his chest, over the steady beat beneath all that scarred skin. But I will not disappear inside your world. You will not. I will work. Yes, I will argue. I assumed. I will still save people. His hand tightened over mine. I know. And Marcus faces his own consequences. He will. I looked at him carefully. You are not allowed to turn love into a locked door because you are afraid. Pain crossed his face. Then acceptance. If I do, you open it. No, you open it. His gaze held mine for a long second. Then he nodded. I open it. That was when I kissed him. Not because danger was chasing us, not because fear had burned through restraint, because I chose to. Hunter made a low sound the moment my mouth touched his, but he did not seize control. His hands came to my waist carefully, almost reverently, and stayed there as if he had learned the shape of asking with his body before his mouth could manage it. The kiss was slow, deep, not polished, not gentle in the way softer men might have been, but careful. Hunter careful was a miracle with teeth. When I pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. His breathing was rough, but his hands stayed steady. "Come home with me." I lifted one brow. That was almost an order. His mouth brushed mine, barely there. "Please." The word ruined me. I picked up my coat from the chair and turned off the trauma bay light. Outside, the rain had softened to mist. Hunter's men waited across the street, not crowding, not rushing, not pretending they were not watching every window. Hunter opened the clinic door for me and did not put a hand on my back until I reached for him first. When I did, his fingers closed around mine. Not possession, not debt. Choice. Together, we stepped into the wet midnight, past the place where the nightmare had started, toward whatever came after survival. And for the first time in his life, the savage Don held something precious without trying to turn it into a weapon. Epilogue. 6 months later, the savage Don learned how to knock. That was the part no one believed. Not Anton, who still looked vaguely disturbed every time Hunter paused outside a room instead of simply entering it. Not Mara, who claimed miracles were outside her medical license. Not Marcus, who once nearly choked on coffee when Hunter stood in the hallway of my clinic and waited for me to say, "Come in." And definitely not me at first. Because men like Hunter Narvelle did not ask permission from doors. They became the reason doors opened. But there he was, 6 months after the night he walked into my clinic bleeding and ruined my life into something unrecognizable, standing outside my office with 2 knuckles lifted against the frame. Knock. Knock. I looked up from the supply invoice and tried very hard not to smile. "You know, you own half the security system in this building. I do not own the woman inside it." My pen stopped moving. Still, after all this time, he could do that. Take a simple sentence and set it carefully in the softest place in my chest. Hunter leaned against the doorway in a black coat, hair damp from the rain, a faint scar cutting through one eyebrow, and power sitting on him like a second skin. He still looked like a man mothers warned their sons not to cross. He still made my waiting room go quiet when he entered. He still had enemies who hated the shape of his name. But with me, he had learned to lower the weapon before he reached for tenderness. That had not happened quickly. Or neatly. Love with Hunter was not a perfect song. It was a language we built one word at a time. He learned not to assign guards inside my exam rooms unless I asked. I learned not to pretend I was fine until I collapsed in the supply closet. He learned to say, "I am afraid," though sometimes it came out sounding like, "There are too many windows in this place." I learned to hear the difference. He had not become a gentleman. Not to the world. To the world, Hunter Narvelle remained the street king, who broke the Belanti family's hold on 3 neighborhoods, stripped their collectors from the clinic district, and made it clear that anyone who touched a nurse, a patient, or a scared kid with more debt than sense would answer to him personally. People called it violence. The women in those neighborhoods called it breathing room. The clinic had changed too. The back door had reinforced steel now. The alley had lights bright enough to make shadows uncomfortable. The panic buttons Hunter installed without asking were still there because, after I yelled for 20 minutes, I admitted they were useful. But he asked about everything after that. Every lock, every camera, every guard, every line. He did not always like my answers. He honored them anyway. That was how I knew he loved me. Not because he wanted to protect me. Hunter had wanted that from the beginning. Because he learned protection meant nothing if it swallowed the person whole. "You're early. You said 7. It is 6:30. I was nearby." "You were outside for 20 minutes, weren't you?" His silence answered. I stood and crossed the office. Hunter. I did not come in. That is not the same as being normal. I have never advertised myself as normal. I laughed, and the corner of his mouth moved. Not a full smile. Hunter's smiles were rare things. Half hidden. Dangerous if witnessed by unprepared people. But I had learned how to find them in the smallest shifts of his face. I reached him and straightened the collar of his coat. You are hovering. I am waiting. For what? For you to finish. I narrowed my eyes. You have that face. What face? The I moved something large and expensive without telling you face. He looked offended in a quiet, devastating way. That is a very specific face. You wear it often. Behind him, someone cleared his throat. Marcus stood in the hallway wearing dark work pants, a clean jacket, and an expression so proud and nervous it nearly undid me. He had filled out again in the last few months, not in body, but in spirit. Shame no longer dragged behind him like chains. It had become something sturdier. Accountability. In his hands he held a small wrapped box. I blinked. What is this? Marcus looked at Hunter. Hunter looked at Marcus. I pointed between them. Do not do silent mafia communication in my clinic. Marcus swallowed. It's not mafia communication. It's brother-in-law communication. The room went very still. My heart stopped. Hunter did not move. But something dark and fierce passed through his eyes so quickly I almost missed it. Brother-in-law? Marcus's face went red. Not officially. I mean, maybe one day. Not pressuring. He said I could say it if I survived unloading trucks for 6 months and paid back the first part of what I owed. I turned slowly toward Hunter. You made my brother earn the right to call you family? Hunter's gaze did not waver. No. I made him understand family is not something you borrow against. Marcus looked down. He's right. That was the part that made my throat close. Not Hunter's rough justice. Marcus agreeing with it. My brother stepped forward and handed me the box. Open it. Inside was a key, plain silver, no diamonds, no dramatic ribbon, no ridiculous engraved heart. Just a key. I stared at it, confused. Marcus smiled faintly. It's for the new clinic. My breath left me. Hunter said nothing. I looked up at him, but he was watching my face with the kind of focus he had once given threats, wounds, and war. What new clinic? I whispered. Marcus stepped back, giving Hunter the moment he clearly did not want to take and could not escape. Hunter's voice came low. The building on Marrow Street. It used to belong to a Belanti collector. I knew the place. Everyone knew the place. A boarded-up brick building in a neighborhood where ambulances came late and people learned to treat wounds with kitchen towels because bills were scarier than blood. Hunter continued. It has been renovated. Exam rooms, pharmacy storage, emergency bay, pediatric room, a private entrance for women who need one. You choose the staff. You choose the name. You choose whether you want it at all. My hand closed around the key until the edge bit my palm. You bought me a clinic? I bought the building, he paused. The clinic is yours, only if you want it. My eyes burned. You cannot just give me a whole clinic. I can. Hunter. I know. His jaw tightened, and there it was, the fight in him. The old instinct to say, because I said so, because I can, because it is done. Then he breathed through it. I am asking. The tears came then, silent, furious, unstoppable. Marcus made a panicked sound. Is this good crying or bad crying? Marcus. Right. Shutting up. I pressed the key to my chest and looked at the man who had once thought love meant walls, locks, possession, and blood. You did this because I told you I still wanted to save people. Yes. And because you wanted them safer? Yes. And because you are incapable of a normal anniversary gift. His eyes darkened. This is not your anniversary gift. My breath caught. Hunter reached into his coat. Marcus turned around so fast he nearly hit the wall. I'm not here. I see nothing. I am spiritually outside. Hunter ignored him. He did not kneel. That would have been too polished for him. Too rehearsed. Too borrowed from men who knew how to make love look pretty in public. Instead, he took my hand. The same hand that had pulled a bullet from his body. The same hand he had once grabbed in warning. The same hand he now held like something sacred. I am still savage. I will always be. There are parts of me the world made before I knew how to stop it. But with you, I have learned the difference between holding and owning. Between guarding and caging. Between fear and love. My lips trembled. He opened his palm. A ring lay there. Not delicate, not flashy. A dark stone set in warm gold, surrounded by tiny diamonds that caught the clinic light like captured stars. I will not ask you to disappear into my name. I am asking if you will let me spend the rest of my life becoming worthy of yours. My heart broke open. Not painfully. Finally. I touched his face, the scar through his eyebrow, the jaw that had clenched through bullets, apologies, and every difficult lesson love had demanded of him. Yes, I whispered. Hunter went still. Not because he doubted me. Because joy, I realized, was another language no one had taught him. So I taught him the first word with a kiss. He caught me carefully. Always carefully now. Marcus made a strangled sound behind us. I am happy, but deeply uncomfortable. I laughed against Hunter's mouth. Hunter's hands settled at my waist, steady and warm. Outside, rain tapped against the clinic windows. Inside, the place smelled like antiseptic, coffee, clean gauze, and the beginning of something I had never let myself imagine. A home that did not ask me to shrink. A love that did not need me bleeding to prove I mattered. A future where the savage dawn still frightened the world, but came to my door and knocked. And when he slid the ring onto my finger, Hunter Narvelle did not claim me like a possession. He held my hand like a promise, like a prayer, like a man who had finally learned that the strongest thing he could do with something precious was not lock it away. It was let it choose him back. If this story pulled you in, please hit the like button. It tells YouTube that romance listeners want more dark, emotional Mafia audiobooks like this. Drop a comment too, because your comments help the video reach more readers, and they also tell me which characters, twists, and moments hit the hardest. Subscribe so you do not miss the next dangerous love story, and share this audiobook with someone who loves possessive mafia men, strong heroines, betrayal, obsession, and romance that hurts before it heals. Thank you for listening, my ruthless romantics. If Hunter and Kayla's story kept you hooked, leave a comment and tell me which moment broke you, shocked you, or made you fall for the savage dawn. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with another romance lover. Every like, comment, and share helps this channel grow and lets me keep bringing you longer, deeper, more addictive romance audiobooks. Written and brought to life by Bayless. Copyright 2026, Bayless. All rights reserved. No part of this story may be copied, reposted, rewritten, narrated, reproduced, or distributed without written permission from the author. Until next time, stay ruined.